United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, on an official basis, good morning, and we will begin our meeting. Today we are going to have a presentation from LPD on the update on first responders and mental health app, and so we will have that kicked off by our police chief, Sammy Taylor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us this morning. We're going to, in the interest of time, I want to make sure that we get through this because Assistant Chief Pacheco wants to talk to you about some exciting things that we have going on relative to the care of the mental health of our officers, our first responders, and our firefighters. So I want to allow him plenty of time to get through that. So I'm going to talk to you real briefly, basically a state of the police department and what we've done in the past probably 6-8 months, particularly since I've been chief, and a little bit that some of this stuff was in motion prior to me getting there. I want to give you a staffing update, some digital management evidence systems, that's the body-worn cameras, community initiatives, some cost-saving initiatives, and some employee-focused benefits. So let's start with a staffing update. I want to particularly focus on the open positions that we have. We had the last 21 positions that we've had open. We've give you a breakdown there of 6 Hispanic males, 5 white males, 4 white females, 3 Hispanic females, 2 black males, and 1 black female. And 7 are U.S. veterans, which I'm also very, very happy about and very proud of. I can tell you that we've put a lot of focus into recruiting, and Hans, Assistant Chief Lehman, Mike Lewis, Lieutenant Mike Lewis, and all of his staff have done an outstanding job. These are just the past 21 that we have hired and have issued job offers to. So we're certainly starting to see increased diversity with our recruits, which I think is a positive sign. We're also adding 1 new part-time investigator for the Cole case that Commissioner Simmons inquired about. We spoke about at the budget retreat. The initial gentleman that we offered the job and thought we were going to move forward with, he ended up actually withdrawing, so we had to redo it again. So we actually, for folks that remember Gary Gross, used to be our public information officer. Gary's expressed an interest in doing it. He's also an old auto theft detective, so I have very high hopes for Gary, and plus he brings Gary, so that's good. So we'll take him. Next, we'll talk about a little bit about the digital management and evidence system. All the body-worn cameras have been issued. You'll see some of the staff in the back is wearing them this morning, all the way from the chief down. I didn't put mine on this morning because I didn't want to, I didn't put it on this morning. So actually I forgot, truth be told. I'm not used to wearing it. I don't wear it very often. I wear it when I go out to some different things. Had it laying out to put on, and because I'm not used to wearing it, I just actually walked out and forgot it. So we have 120 new in-car cameras have been installed, with also the license plate reader technology. That is up and running, doing very well with that. We held a 45 back. We didn't want to install 45 cameras in cars just to turn around and take them right back out when we got the new car order in. So we held 45 of them out. All the new tasers have been issued as well. Cell phones have been issued to all sworn officers that increase efficiency. The officers can take pictures at the scene. They can download doorbell video, surveillance video, send it right up to the cloud and evidence.com. We're seeing quite a few efficiencies with that. So we're very excited about that. The video training library, which we talked about extensively. Every time an officer does something that we think is very training worthy, that we want to say, hey, look, this is exactly the way we want to represent how we want to do this, whether it's a traffic stop or applying a tourniquet, anything along those lines. We want to create a digital library that the officers can use, the trainers can use, that they can go back and say, hey, look, do it this way. We like the way this officer did it. She did a good job. Do it this way. See how she handled this citizen encounter. So we're very happy about that. Evidence.com is fully operational. That is in the cloud. I don't know where the cloud is. They say it's in the cloud. They say we have over 776,000 pieces of digital evidence of 29.2 terabytes. Again, I'm told that's a lot, so I'll take their word for it. And 2 additional staff members have been added to handle the software and the equipment and the management of digital and the public records. So we are very happy with what we're seeing and the efficiencies that we're gaining off our digital evidence and our evidence.com and the cloud. That was something that that the city management, Sean and Emily, and this commission stepped up to, and it required some extra funding. And I can tell you that we are very, very happy with that. And I think in the long term, that's going to save us a lot of man hours. Instead of having officers having to come back to the station and upload videos, jump drives, thumb drives, DVDs, things along those lines, they can actually gather that evidence right there at the scene and upload it on their cell phone. So I think that's good. Next, we have some community-focused initiatives. These are things that some of this is old news to you, but we realigned the staffing to form the community services section. That's Lieutenant Joe Parker. If you guys will remember Joe, it was initially under the Neighborhood Services Bureau. When I spoke with you last at the budget retreat, we were going to leave it under Neighborhood Services and see how that worked. Now with the School Resource Officer unit being collapsed and that standing up, we're actually going to move that over to the Special Services Bureau. So that would no longer, Joe and all the NLOs, the homeless liaison officer, the CRA officers are actually going to be aligned under the Special Services Bureau, which you think will give us even more autonomy for Joe and his folks, Lieutenant Parker, to be able to work on neighborhood issues. They're not tied to 911 call taking. They list all the folks that are going to report to him, the CRA officers, homeless liaison, crime prevention, and PAL. We're actually going to move PAL from underneath Joe and assign it to the school resource officer. We're still going to have Lieutenant Collins over the school resource officers, and he's actually going to pick up PAL as well, which we think more closely aligns with the mission with the school resource officers that we are going to keep. So, and that's our hope of engaging more of those schools and getting them involved in PAL. Police Explorer program is a year-round thing. Obviously, PAL turns 30 this year. As the second executive director of PAL back in the early 90s, I'm kind of partial to PAL, and so I have a soft spot in my heart for PAL. But they turned 30 this year, so some of the things that we're looking at for PAL, possibly a new building, and right now I'm told we're the only PAL program in Polk County. So Winter Haven used to have one, Lake Wales used to have one. We're the only one, and we've had one for 30 years. So awesome. We're very happy with that. So some of the cost-saving initiatives. New vehicle graphics package is coming soon, and that's an example of what we're going to do. Uniform patrol vehicles are going to be changing to all black. We're expecting to save about $3,000 per vehicle by doing that. Wow. A lot of people don't know that you can't order a black and white car from the factory. You either have to order all black and then send it directly to the paint shop to have the doors painted white, or you have to order all white and send it to the paint shop and have the fenders and the painted all black. It sounded kind of dumb to me, and Hans and I started talking about it, and he said, well, we can probably save about $3,000 if we don't paint them. I said, well, let's not paint them. Let's either go all black or all white. We were kind of leaning towards all white, to be honest with you, and then we had 35 Tahoes fall into our lap from the sheriff's office in Georgia that they weren't able to buy, and do some working with Mike Grossart and his folks, we were able to find the funds to go ahead and buy those vehicles early, and they just happened to be black, and I said, well, I guess we're going with black then. So black it is. So, but it's about $3,000 per vehicle, which I think is a lot. So that's going to be the new graphics package. We're still tweaking that a little bit, but that's probably what it's going to look like. Some employee-focused benefits. Obviously, the new contract with the FOP helped tremendously, and this commission played a big role in that, and also, as well as Sean approving that approving that contract and getting officers paid where they needed to be paid. The tattoo policy, we talked about that. We have implemented the tattoo policy. Still not going with the beard yet, unless Sean tells me to go with the beard, and I'll go with the beards, but not yet. And we're exploring the load-bearing vest. That's an example of what a load-bearing vest would look like. That's one example. There are many of them out there. We're still looking at that. We haven't really pulled the trigger on that yet. But it gets all the weight off the belt and up onto the vest. And it helps the officers when you're working 12-hour shifts and then out of the car all day. You know, these officers end up having knee issues and back issues and everything else from carrying that weight around. So, and a lot of agencies are doing it. Every time I turn the TV on, a lot of officers, a lot of agencies are wearing load-bearing vests, and a lot of them have beards too, but we're not doing that. So I think I've said that a time or two. New ultrasound screenings started on May 8th. That was part of the FOP negotiations. We started those Monday of last week, and those are going very well. That's the same thing the fire department's been doing for a couple of years, and that was negotiated in the contract. And there's some new initiatives on mental health. We will stand for questions at the end. I want to give Steve some time to go through the mental health program and bring everybody up to date on that. But we have some exciting things as far as dealing with the folks and our folks in the fire fighters as far as their mental health. So with that, I'll turn it over to Assistant Chief Steve Pacheco.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, while they're switching over, I'd just like to make a couple of comments. First of all, I don't tell Chief Taylor to do anything. I ask him to consider some things, and then he gives me his feedback, and we work through that together. And he's doing a phenomenal job.
Great.
As everyone in the community knows, the past several months for the police officers and the police department have been challenging, but they've done a tremendous job. And there's a lot of concerns about their well-being. And so that's a great segue into the next presentation. Before that, though, I also want to comment that there were several representatives from the police department involved in the graphics package on the vehicles as well. That's kind of a point of pride with a lot of police agencies. I know within law enforcement there's even an annual competition where they award based on different looks of vehicles at other agencies. And so I think what you saw is a good look. I know it has support from the police department. And with that, and more importantly, then I'll recognize Assistant Chief Pacheco to talk about mental health and wellness at the police department.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Before I get started, I'm going to ask Shane if you would stand up for me, please. Don't be bashful. This is Shane Reynolds. There's a lot of stuff that I'm going to talk to you about today that we've done together to address mental health and wellness for both of our agencies. And a lot of the stuff is not just germane to the police department, but it's also germane to the fire department too. So I'll begin with a little quote here, but we many times think about the inherent dangers on the street as we've experienced this week with the shooting that happened and the dangers that officers face. But we sometimes don't think about the psychological part of what happened on the street during these incidents. And a lot of times, we deal with that danger and we deal with those situations and, they're settled within days or weeks. But the psychological impact of those things lasts for a long time. And some officers deal with them even years and years later. So as we sit here right now, and I stand here right now, our public safety officers are out there answering calls. And some of them could be one call away from a call that affects them for the rest of their lives, as we saw this last week. So that's something that we need to think about as administrators, is that every day, every second, one of our officers or one of the firefighters could be answering a call that could have a really lasting impact on their life and change their life completely. So I'll show you in a little bit, but some so much that it cost them their job or it cost them their life. And that is due to the intense nature of those calls. So we can see from the middle sentence there that it's estimated that 30% of first responders develop some type of behavioral health condition during the course of their career. And that's from the constant exposure. Stress is inherent to our job on pretty much every call that we do. It's inherent for administrators, sitting in our office trying to deal with decisions that we make that affect, not only the lives of our officers and people on the street, but also the citizens that we serve too. So those are sometimes stress. Our officers operate under stress every day, but it's the traumatic situations that we worry about that have a lasting impact more so than just the daily stress that they're under too. And with that, comes the conditions that we see in the third section down there. But we worry about PTSD. We worry about burnout. This year, for the first time ever, I sat in the strategic partners meeting that we have as assistant department heads, and I heard assistant department heads from all over this city talk about burnout from their employees. I had never heard that conversation before, but it's not only with us, it's with every department in this city that they're worried about their employees and they're worried with what's going on in society and things that are affecting us as employees, that they're worried about their people. So that's something to be said also. Where does this lead us? So these are just some of the things that we worry about in public safety, but as you can see, some of those numbers are pretty alarming. A lot of those first lines up there on the top with died in line of duty was due to COVID and health-related issues. But what more concerns me is the bottom section. And that's officers and public safety people who have not dealt with the things that they've been exposed to during the course of their career.
These are national numbers,
These are
correct?
national numbers for the U.S. What's even more concerning is that in this last week, as I've been preparing this presentation for you, I've actually had to change these numbers 3 times on the bottom for the suicides that have happened this last year. So that's pretty alarming that it's occurring at that rate in the United States. We would think, too, that this would probably be more exposure to those who have retired because they haven't dealt with the things that they saw and were exposed to over the course of their career. But as these statistics show, it's really not. It's really the on-duty active people that are really dealing with things and not knowing how to handle the problems psychologically and the issues that they've had to see on a daily basis. So again, we equip, and we are very, very lucky in this city, thanks to your support, that our officers and our firefighters are well equipped with all the tools that they have to handle this job on a daily basis. But as administrators, we have to really think about the psychological impact of what they're going through, and are we equipping our officers and our firefighters with the tools and the resources needed to really handle the things that they're seeing and the traumatic incidents that they're going through. I can tell you, and probably every police officer sitting in here can tell you, over the course of their career, they've probably run into some administrator or somebody who has basically just told them to deal with it and suck it up and go about your business, because we don't have time to sit and cry or sit and process things. You got to move on to the next call. And that is one bad aspect of our job, is that we do go from call to call to call, and we don't have time to process some of the things that we see and some of the things that we deal with. So again, we have to realize that the exposure that our officers go through can lead to certain issues, and the things that we worry about are the anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress, and the post-traumatic stress disorder. That leads us to the point of what do we do and how can we foster, our members' mental health. And these are some of the things that myself and Shane from the fire department have done probably over the last course of the 2 or 3 years. I'm proud to say that, as administrators of both of our agencies, we lead by example, and we believe very strongly that it's important to take care of your mental health. And we do have some credibility with that after leading through our own traumatic incidents. And as I was giving this presentation to the city manager the other day in our practice session, I hope I didn't shock you, but some people don't know, but my second wife died by suicide. So that was an own traumatic incident that I went through on a personal level, which actually carried on, into my professional life, because after going through that incident, I didn't know if I wanted to be a police officer anymore. And I didn't know if I had it in me after going through my own traumatic incident to go and help other people with those similar situations. So what do? The first thing that we do is we try to get to our officers and our firefighters at the very beginning of their career, because we have seen that if they get exposed to things early on, hopefully they'll carry with that through the course of their career. So we talk to them about mental health in the beginning. I do a class for all of our new officers in PSAs and communications, and Shane from the fire department, they do something similar for their officers in the academy and in their new member orientation. That's where the conversation starts. That's where breaking the stigma of talking about mental health and being able to get help starts. And if they can feel comfortable from the very beginning of their career, knowing that their agency and their administrators support them and want them to get help when something happens, it could be 10 years later, it could be 15 years later, but they may remember that conversation. More importantly so is that we invite our spouses and our families to that training session. So we all know that usually when there's something going wrong with us, especially if you're married, your wife is probably going to be the first person to notice if something's wrong with you or something's going on. And they're going to call it to somebody's attention for you to try to get help. The second thing we do is encourage physical fitness. In our Lakeland Mini Academy, we have physical fitness at least 2 or 3 times a week for our new officers, and the firefighters do something similar with regards to what they do. Fortunately for them, they have a little bit more time to work out than we do, but that's a good thing. So I think that physical fitness is super important, and we all know that there's a lot of studies out there that show that if you're taking care of yourself, physically, that it's going to carry over into the mental health part of what you're doing. We do have a very robust chaplaincy program. We're grateful for that, and former retired Lieutenant Ingrazi is our lead chaplain, and he does a phenomenal job. Not many people know that we have 11 chaplains for the police department, and from all different denominations, and they do a fabulous job. They come to all of our briefings, and they attend different functions that we have, and more importantly, help the officers on the street when they're dealing with somebody who has died by suicide or death investigations, or even somebody who's been traumatized by a certain type of crime. They do respond if needed. And more importantly, they're there for our officers and our members in the police department if they're going through something on a personal level. Both of our agencies also have peer support teams, and this is important because sometimes we know that, when a member does want to reach out and talk to somebody, they're certainly probably not going to call the chief because they don't want him knowing what's going on. But they will talk to a peer member, somebody who's close to them on the squad or somebody who they might know on a personal level, and they can open up and share something with and not feel judged so much by somebody in administration. So that peer support is made up of different people throughout our agencies and a lot of people who have been through something. We have officers who have been through shootings, myself who has been, I used to be only one member that was affected by suicide, and unfortunately now we have 2 or 3 other members in our department who have been affected by that, and different things that have happened during their life. So they can share from a peer standpoint and talk to them and hopefully encourage them to do some of the other things. Most importantly, when we have these peer throughout the department, they recognize when something's happened that somebody needs to be called. So sometimes we're at home sleep at night. If we have a tragic situation happen at 2 o'clock in the morning and they know that officers have been affected by that call, then they call a peer support person and they respond and make contact with that person. Next thing we do is basically, promote taking care of your mental health and wellness. And these are just some of the posters that we made from the fire department and the police department that we hung out throughout the agency, just encouraging our people to get help if they need help and what the resources are to do that, to reach out to EAP or to reach out to somebody in case they need something and they need assistance. We also made these neat little credit cards for everybody. And these are, again, just the same information that's on the poster, but the officers and the firefighters can carry these on their uniform or keep them in their car. And just another way for them to have immediate access to what numbers and what the resources are in case they need to call right away. We took that a step further with our EAP program. Not a lot of people know that EAP is not just for mental health counseling. There's also financial counseling and marriage counseling and a number of different things that you can use EAP for. But we felt it necessary to reach out to our EAP program and ask if we could vet certain clinicians for just public safety. We are a different breed. We are different people. We see things and are exposed to things that the normal citizens in our city are not exposed to. And we believe that that takes a special clinician to be able to go in and deal with that. Imagine being a licensed mental health counselor, somebody maybe who is brand new, a couple of years on, and a police officer with 30 years of trauma walks in and unloads on you. That's pretty daunting for even a licensed mental health counselor to have to deal with a police officer or a firefighter who has years and years and years of trauma and things built up that they need to get off their chest. So one of the things that we did was we vetted them. We came up with 4 through EAP. We actually got their resumes and sat down, Shane and I, with risk management and the representative from the EAP, and we actually vetted and interviewed all of these EAP providers, and we selected these 4 for our use within the city. We probably wouldn't be in a very good position either without our partners. And Alice Nuttall from Lakeland Regional Hospital has been a tremendous resource for us, and she has opened her doors and given us access to their psychologists from the Lakeland Regional. And why would you think that that's important? Well, above the licensed mental health counselors that we have with EAP, sometimes a little bit more education and a little bit more attention is needed, and we have to have a psychologist or a psychiatrist involved in that process. More importantly, Alice helped us develop the direct access process for our members. As you can imagine, if we have a member that's in crisis, working the street or whatever, they're not just going to walk into the emergency room on their own. They know all the nurses, they know all the doctors, and the stigma around seeking help is pretty daunting. So we know that they're not just going to seek help and they're not going to walk into the emergency room. So she helped us create a special process that if we do have somebody that's in crisis, that we can go behind doors and make that kind of secret and discreet and help them and get them help that they need. Lastly, what we've done at the Lakeland Police Department is that we've tried to tie all these resources together. There's a lot of things that we offer, as you see, but they were all over the place in different databases, and being able to find that information was sometimes a little difficult, and the officers forget about it. So what we did was we went out and there's a couple of different mental health and wellness apps out there, but we selected Lighthouse Health and Wellness because basically they're pretty good and their pricing was great. So we tied all of our resources that we have together in this one mental health app. Especially in today, in the age of technology with all of our people, they spend a tremendous amount of time on their phone. So why not tie all the things that we have together with this mental health app? And this is what we did. And it's basically anonymous and confidential. We don't keep any records. The city doesn't keep any records. The only thing that we can get, even by calling the company, is just how many people have downloaded the app and how many people are using it on a regular basis. So as you can see, the biggest thing that we liked about this app was we're able to push notifications and training out. If we have a video on stress or a video on how to take care of yourself physically fit or exercise, we can push that information out to everybody with one push of a button. The second thing is that all of our resources are on the app, so now with a click of a button, they can pick peer support team, and every peer support person's picture, telephone numbers, email is all on that app and is very easily accessible. The other thing that we liked about this app was the ability to have these self-assessment tests. There may be times, during somebody's life that they're feeling a little down and they don't know if they should seek help. They're able now to get on and take these little quizzes, and it could be 10, 15, 20 questions, and the quiz will return a number or a score to them. And if they score high, and let's just say they're stressed out and they really didn't know they were stressed out, it'll return that score and it'll tell them at the end of that, hey, you scored at this point, and maybe you should be reaching out to somebody in peer support team or reaching out to EAP. And that might be the one thing that pushes somebody to get help, because they wouldn't have done it otherwise if they wouldn't have had this mechanism. Lighthouse also offers other mental health, personal wellness, and physical fitness things that you can look up on your own, and the information's endless on there, what you can do. And the last slide to the right is basically the crisis lines that they could call if they are in crisis and they're at that point and they want to make a telephone call. Lastly, I'll leave you with some of the deficiencies that we had that we noticed over the last couple of years when Shane and I have been working on some things. Unfortunately, we've had to use that emergency process for Lakeland Regional a number of different times, both Shane and I for the fire department and the police department. It's worked wonders, but one of the things that we found in using that is that if I take one of my officers who's in crisis and basically...
You may have hit that mic button.
I don't think so. There it is. So basically what we found out is that if we have somebody in crisis and we actually put them into the hospital under Baker Act, and that's covered under workers' comp, as soon as they get out and they have an appointment the next day with the same psychologist who they saw the previous day, that wasn't covered under our workers' comp for the city of Lakeland, because we did not have an agreement with our EAP provider and under workers' comp for access to the psychologists and psychiatrists at Lakeland Regional. Happy to say I just had a meeting with Alice Nuttall this week on some other things that we were discussing, but she told me after probably more than a year and a half now that contract is basically waiting for signatures, and we got the logistics of that worked out. So that's a great news for our members that they will have access now to competent psychologists and psychiatrists if they need that. And lastly, our peer support teams, we're always trying to build that team. and always trying to add new members for that team who are exposed to different types of traumatic incidents, because they come from a place of experience now after they've gone through something and they've made it through the other side. So we actually like to add those, and we're fixing to do training for our peer support team this week, and I know Shane has done a lot of training on their peer support, but University of Central Florida is bringing their clinicians and psychologists over this next couple weeks to train our peer support team on how to better recognize signs of stress and things like that in our members. With that, I'll take any questions, or me and the chief will take any questions that you might have.
Okay, I'm going to call an audible here.
All right.
And I really am so impressed with the comprehensiveness of this, and I'm sure that's shared among the commissioners, and probably the most robust presentation by a department on mental health that I've ever seen. We have an unusual circumstance today in that our former Lakeland Regional Health CEO is in the room, Dr. Lane Thompson, and only because she has a passion for this particular area and a lot of knowledge, I wondered if I could invite you to come up and make any round-out comments that you might have relative to what you've seen in this presentation and what we're doing in the city.
So funny, Bill texted me during the presentation, will you make a round-up comment? I don't even know what that means, but like, what do you say when the mayor says? I'm like,
Okay.
Sure, I'll round out anything. But first of all, I don't speak for Lakeland Regional Health. At this point, I retired 2 years ago. I know one of our directors, Wayman Snuggs, is in the room, but I do know their passion, and Danielle's passion, and Alice Nuttall's passion for working side by side with our superheroes, both in fire and police, will be an utmost priority for whatever your team needs. And when I led Lakeland Regional Health, we could never do the work that we were able to do in this community without the fire and the police department. You are truly superheroes. And anything that we could do to support the mental health, the mind, body, spirit, your presentation was spectacular. I'm sure continue to reach out to all of us that are in that space that can continue to foster your great work and great commitment to this program. It's just outstanding. Thank you for what you do.
Thanks very much. Appreciate you doing that.
Is that a round out?
That's perfect. Well, the balance in this topic affects all of our lives. This is a topic that we're looking at departmentally and across fire as well, of course. But it's true for all our lives. There are pressures in the mental health arena that we have not ever faced as a society before at the level that we're facing them. And I read an article this morning on about TikTok being algorithmed for 13-year-olds to promote suicide. And so that if you're unaware that you're watching, what your kids might be looking at, this whole subversion of certainty in who I am and my design and my effectiveness and my passion undermines it. It gets undermined at even younger ages all the time. Then think about being a person who is a first responder and balancing the act between being realistic about what you see and becoming super cynical about what you have to endure, super cynical about people, and just keeping your head in the right space to be able to execute these things well. And so this is so admirable and so necessary. And the way that you're providing tools and teams to make it happen is a wonderful recognition of the need. Commissioners, Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Mayor, and I wholeheartedly agree. And Chief Pacheco, I knew that you and others were leading on this effort. I had no idea the depth to which you were developing these resources and what we have today. And thank you, Shane, for your leadership in this. And I think about what you said with the culture of years past of deal with it. And my dad, who was coming up in law enforcement in the late 80s and 90s, and even leading departments in the early 2000s, and those resources just didn't exist. And the impact that the experiences have on spouses and families, and now you're developing resources not only for the officers, and those are critical, but also for their families as well, and that's huge. And so I'm thrilled with that. Thank you for all that you're doing in this area. And then I would ask, is there anything that we can do as a commission to further these efforts to support you even more than what you're doing today?
No, I know that Shane is probably going to be looking at the mobile app also, maybe for the fire department, and we weren't able to look at that, together. So I would just say, support for that, financial support. We were able to find the money to get that off the ground and do that within our budget, and I'm not sure if they will be able to do that. So That's the biggest thing. And, you know, the mobile app is great because we actually push that out. And as a family member, my wife can she has it on her phone. So for the ability and we also push it out to our retirees also. So the ability to have that app to tie all of our resources together where a spouse or a retiree didn't have access to, you know, our computer systems anymore is phenomenal, and it's priceless. We don't even know the benefits it's probably going to serve. If it saves one life, if it saves one of our officers' lives, and we don't lose an officer to either suicide or to, you know, a PTSD disability, you know, that's the one thing that we look at is that we want to save our employees from and keep them as productive employees. And to do that, you know, they have to get help. And we lose one person to a PTSD disability, you're paying that person for the rest of their life. They deserve it, but we need them as valuable employees so that they can serve the citizens of this city.
Well, I thank you for the proactive approach. We as a city, not only a police department, but as a commission, we want our officers to know that we are behind them and we are supporting them, and we want to be committed to making sure they have the resources that they need, that their families need, and we're committed to that. And so if there are things that come up that you say, we need this support, I know you will, but let us know. And second, can you talk about the Fallen Heroes Memorial event this weekend, because funds for that support the Police Foundation, which will help with some of this efforts. Is that correct?
Okay, yeah, we're actually doing a proclamation. We'll steal some of the thunder from that proclamation.
Okay.
But
you can
no,
wait
that's
if
fine.
you've read it.
This week is National Law Enforcement Week, and we're doing a proclamation here in a few minutes. But this is our week across the nation to recognize, you know, fallen heroes, and not only them, but their families who have sacrificed. And for those that have died in the line of duty, the families are the ones that we try to recognize, because they are the ones that have made the true sacrifice too. So this week you'll notice some probably things around. We have the Fallen Heroes Memorial at the police department lit up in blue. And next weekend, Saturday, is our Fallen Heroes Memorial Race. And that's our annual fall fundraiser for the Lakeland Police Foundation. And that's our chance to interact with, you know, citizens. We have almost 650 people signed up for that race right now. So there's not another event that we hold, I don't think, as from a police department level, where we have access and to 650 people at once. I think you're running. But that's important. It's important to highlight, you know, we've lost 7 officers, you know, from our agency in the line of duty. And that's 7 too many in our book. I wish we could have built a memorial where there wasn't any glass plates with any of our officers' pictures or end of watch dates on there, but unfortunately we haven't.
Other comments? Great comments, Commissioner McLeod. Commissioner Music.
I just didn't want to glaze over one of the comments that you made, Assistant Chief, and that was, you know, things that you guys see that most of us don't. My brother was a Marine, and he was over in Baghdad in Afghanistan, and the nephews and nieces around, and they're talking about the war, and he just, you know, they start asking him questions, you know, did you shoot people? Did you have to, you know, and you can, you know, he doesn't get to get away from that, right? And the same with you guys, you know, you don't get to get away from that. And, you know, we respect you guys and love you guys because you run towards what everybody is running away from. And that you pay a price for that, and there's a burden that you have to carry. So, you know, considering how mental health has been such a driver throughout our country, to know that the you know, the police and fire and the departments you're with have not overlooked that, and have not, you know, because it's a very, you know, strong, you know, I can't think of a better word, but a hyper masculine type of a job that you men and women are in, and to look at that and say, well, I can, like you said, I can work out the body, but to work out the heart and the spirit and the mind is a whole different thing. So, you know, I just appreciate that, because to know that you're as strong as you can be in mind and spirit and body is what we need when you're out there protecting us. So thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Simmons.
I would just like to add to what Commissioner Music stated, and certainly the situation couldn't have been more highlighted than the incident last week at the corner of Kettles and 10th Street. I made a comment last Friday at the agenda study, but I'm very, it's remarkable how that Officer Smith, after being shot in the foot, pursued the suspect engaged in gunfire with him and ultimately captured him. And this was at the risk of his own life. And ultimately what happened was he made an atmosphere that was safe for the residents of Carrington Park and the surrounding neighborhoods. That's remarkable. And we talk about mental health, but I've actually heard situations where some of the residents were mentally affected, some of the young kids where some of the gunshots were fired into the apartments, some of those shots. So I certainly want to commend that particular officer as well as the Lakeland Police Department. And, you know, we don't think about, you know, how dangerous your jobs are, that at a routine call, a stop, that someone's life could be at risk by just going up, asking someone for their driver's license. So again, I want to commend not only that officer, but the Lakeland police officer and all the work you all do. And I feel overwhelmed at this point to just applaud you all.
All right. Well done.
Thank you, sir, and certainly agree. Any other comments? We'd love a copy of both of those presentations, please. Thank you so much.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Please.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments, and then I want to make a few just quick recognitions. But, you know, I also, to all the points that were raised here today and the appreciation for the police department and the fire department and others, you know, I want to highlight just, we talk about the want for innovation here at the City of Lakeland an awful lot. And think about some of the comments that we heard this morning when we're talking about body cameras and all the systems that support those body cameras and how successful they have been to date. We talk about, you know, things that are as easy or simple as it seems to redesign, you know, the graphics on the police car and saving $3,000 per car. That's innovative thought. And then we see, you know, an app that's available to our law enforcement officers, you know, to help them with their mental well-being. Those are just great examples of innovation, and that's what we see not only coming forward from the police department, but the fire department and throughout the organization. And then with that, Mr. May, I'd just like to recognize a few people before they may leave the room in terms of from our law enforcement from Lakeland Police Department. Just this past week, Assistant Chief Hans Lehman graduated from Leadership Polk, and I believe Assistant Chief Lehman is with us in the back of the room. Additionally, Assistant Chief Marvin Tarver graduated from Leadership Lakeland this past week, and Assistant Chief Tarver's not with us because, going back to innovation, he is having his body scan technology checkup this morning and was not able to be here, but both have graduated from those leadership programs, and so congratulations, Assistant Chief Lehman and Tarver. And then additionally, before I wrap it up, also our Community and Economic Development Director, Brian Ruiz, is in the room. He also graduated from Leadership Lakeland along with Captain Tarver this past. And then if I may, Mr. Mayor, just one other presentation, because we have some staff in the room that we're trying to get back to some meetings that they need to attend. And so just a quick announcement, and Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind awarding the plaque. Just recently, the Lakeland Leonard International Airport was recognized by the Southeast chapter of the American Association of Airport Executives. You all have heard extensively about our CAT-3 instrument landing system project and how long that went on. And so the airport was recognized with the 2023 General Aviation Project of the Year Award. And so Adam Lunn was in Richmond, Virginia to receive the award. And we have Chris and Adam here this morning to receive the plaque, Mr. Mayor.
And you come up with us too. Come on. Shows live. Just giving you a second. Can you hear me? Yes. All right. You were at the event. Kind of give us a wrap up about that. What was it like?
Absolutely. So the event in Richmond was the Southeast chapter of the American Association of Airport Executives annual conference. So 15 states are represented in that chapter, and of that they present 4 awards that they give out. One is for this award, which is the GA Project of the Year, the Commercial Service Airport Project of the Year, and then they give out some 2 additional personal awards. But it's really humbling to be in a room full of all these great airports in the Southeast, and for our project to be selected as the one to represent the entire region. It was very special. Yep.
Awesome. Chris, any round-up comments?
So, this award is great, and we're recognized, among all the airports in the Southeast. But it really is recognizing our team at the airport. Everybody played a role in this, whether you were the administrative assistant or whether you're the accountant or the ops manager or Adam who led the project. Everybody was involved in it, and this is an award to the team that we have at the airport.
Thank you, both Chris and Adam, for the leadership. And just one more point to make. When we talk about that Cat 3 system, there are only 68 of those systems in the country, and there are only 4 in the state of Florida. And we have that here at our Lakeland Linder International Airport.
And what that does is allows you to land a plane absolutely blind. So that takes the plane right to the runway in the worst of conditions. So that's why it's very, very important.
3, 2, 1. All right, thank you.
Okay, you're worried because that was item 1 on the agenda. I know. I sense it. I can see it on your faces. All right, we are ready to move to the City Maker Award, and Chris Ann Long is going to come up, and we'll have a little more dispatch here, but a very necessary pause, as she will tell you.
Can I use that microphone?
You certainly can. Exactly.
See everybody.
There you go.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It is an absolute pleasure and an opportunity that I get every single quarter now, thanks to COVID. It used to be monthly, but we've backed it down, and we're still getting our gears going again since then. But I get the opportunity to recognize people in our community as a city maker. And it was reminded as I was reading, and I don't write these articles, I used to, but now I've kind of passed that on to the team. But I get to read them, and I get to learn a lot about the people who are receiving the awards as I read them, and there's an interview process that we have with the recipient. And as I was reading this particular article, which you can see on lovelakeland.com, you can also nominate a city maker, so anyone in the community that you see going above and beyond, doing things that are just really making the city better, putting a face to the people who usually work behind the scenes and don't really get a lot of recognition. We would love to see some new nominations come through at lovelakeland.com. But as I was reading this article, the quote from Coriolanus, one of Shakespeare's most known plays, is, "What is the city but the people? True, the people are the city." And I wanted to start with that today because I just really feel like that represents who Love Lakeland is and who we are as a community. Many, many years ago when Love Lakeland with Howard Wiggs and Linda Wiggs, we were working together to create this Love Lakeland, hashtag Love Lakeland, kind of creating this movement. And we had a group of students here from Up With People. So it's been years and years now. I don't know if you remember Up With People. And I met a young woman named Abby. And so with her team, we deployed a group of people to do man on the street type videos. And we asked people on the street, what do you love about Lakeland? And the resounding response was the people. It's the people. It's the people. And for us to be able to hear that over and over again, we kind of have to accept that as, wow, that's one of our most precious gems. And so we want to make sure that we honor them, recognize them, and do our due diligence to find those that are kind of hiding, or even those, and I want to share that most of the time the people who we recognize and honor with our Love Lakeland City Maker Award are people who have grown up here, who have roots here, who are generationally connected to Polk County or Lakeland in some way, shape, or form. And yet this quarter's City Maker was commissioned here through the work that they do with the Salvation Army. And I didn't realize this other than, the bells being rung at Christmas time, Salvation Army. I've never really had an opportunity to connect the face with and a name with the people who lead at the Salvation Army. So this was a really great pleasure for me. I want to share a couple of things from the article because I know the majority of you are not right now on your phone diligently going to Love Lakeland and reading that article. So I just wanted to share some highlights from the article. Something that our writer, John Camargo, who works with us, said the Lakeland community has something special about it, and Jeremy loves the unique, generous spirit that radiates through it. The philanthropic heart of Lakeland is the perfect setting for the work of Jeremy and Christina Maccabee at the Salvation Army. Jeremy believes that contributing to the education of Lakeland's children is essential and should be a top priority for anyone who cares for the betterment and future of the community. And every day, each one of us get to make the choice whether we're going to take that opportunity and make a difference in our community or not. We can show up, or we can stay at home, or we can hide behind the scenes and do whatever we think that we want to do for ourselves. But so many of us step up every single day. And there are many of you in this room who do that as well. And it's just incredible. And it's not lost on newcomers to the community either, because one of the quotes from the article that Jeremy shares is, Lakeland's uniqueness is this overwhelming, engulfing feel that the community has in wanting to help one another. They want to help, and they're eager to come alongside not only the Salvation Army, but other great organizations that we get to serve alongside in this community. And if you don't know, part of the Salvation Army statement is to do the most good. The most good that we can do with the money that we raise, whatever you give, no matter how much, whether it's millions of dollars, an old shoe, or simply your time. So with that, I want to invite Jeremy up, and I also want to invite our awesome sponsors, Citizens Bank and Trust, Greg Littleton, and then the founders of Love Lakeland, Howard and Linda Wiggs, to come up and receive this award with our amazing mayor.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you for the commissioners and the commission as well. It is unique in the Salvation Army world that wherever we go, we get to spend on average anywhere between 4 or 5 years before they give us a phone call and say, all right, you're off to your next city to do the most good wherever you may land. And my wife and I are blessed, beyond blessed, to be part of this amazing, amazing community here in Lakeland. We have the opportunity every day to make an impact on many lives. As we speak right now, as we're sitting in this room, we have about a little over 180 individuals who are experiencing homelessness on our 59-acre campus, where we house those who are experiencing homelessness. A majority of those who are kids. Right now, we have our daycare center, our after-school care center, and we have been open for 8 years at this campus. And for every year that we have been open, we have followed every kid that has gone through our system. And we're happy to say, even till this day, that every kid, for the entire 8 years that we've been here, our kids have tested higher than the average Polk County student. And that just goes to say a lot of the work that's being done in our after school and our daycare center. Our progression rate, the national average for progression rate for an average child, if you will, for lack of a better term, is 94%. If you're a homeless individual, it's 88%. Again, we've tracked every one of our kids that have gone through our system since we've been open for the 8 years that we have had our doors open, and our progression rate is 99.6% progression rate to the next grade. So we're making a huge impact on the kids. Again, is it the silver bullet to end homelessness? No. But it is a really large portion to get these kids on the right track, to set them up for success and give them every advantage that we possibly can. We're currently in a capital campaign, a $19.5 million capital campaign to double the amount of those who are experiencing homelessness that will be on our campus. Right now, on average, we're turning away 13 families a night who we can't house because we don't have the room. But right now, we're in the process again. We have a 20-bedroom apartment shelter. Next week is going to be the opening, the ribbon cutting. That'll have 20 more additional rooms for 20 more additional families. We're having 8 more triplexes. That's 3 apartments each. So 24 more apartments for transitional living. We're building 13 houses on our campus for more permanent supportive housing. So we got a lot of work here. So for me to accept this award, I'm very grateful. I really am very grateful to all of you for accept this award. But I really do accept it humbly and on the back and on the shoulders of those who have gone before me to serve this community as well. So on behalf of my wife and I, who's at our child's award ceremony at school, I do want to thank all of you sincerely. I do want to thank you all for the support that you have to come alongside us. We really are, and I know it's cliche, we are only as strong as those who come alongside and support us, and we're grateful for this community to be able to do so. So thank you again for this opportunity. God bless you.
Okay, before I give the mic to him, I just want to make sure that you are aware, Citizens Bank was awarded as the Tampa Bay #1 community bank of the year this last year, and so it's pretty awesome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and commissioners and city manager and city staff. Thank you all for letting us be part of this. And first of all, congratulations to Christina and Jeremy, and a big thank you for all that you do to make our community a better place for all of us. At Citizens Bank and Trust, we had our 103rd birthday last week, and we are a $1.3 billion asset-sized, third-generation, family-owned, community independent bank, and we love Lakeland. And I do think that this past weekend, Citizens Bank and Trust Mayfair by the Lake is a perfect example of why Lakeland is so special and why people love Lakeland so much. We are so proud to be part of this presentation this morning. I think it's really cool that you all set aside this time to honor local heroes like Christina and Jeremy. So thank you again and congratulations. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to say just quickly, we appreciate significantly the recipients and our sponsors. Thank you all for being here. I also want to point out this mayor has been very supportive of this program. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Chris Ann Long. Well, Chris Ann Long is the quintessential example of a community activist who cares about folks in the community and leads this program. And thank you, Linda, for help me start this whole program. Thank you.
All right, now we can take a picture. I promise the momentum's going to pick up, but this is.
Nice and tight. Take one step over this way just a little bit. All right, right there. You're good. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Thank you all. Right, that brings us to proclamations. That's right. Holy cow. All right. My first proclamation is going to be for Community Action Month. And here to accept that proclamation is Paho Liang, CSBG Economic Services Senior Manager at the Agricultural and Labor Program Incorporated. So if you could come up, that would be great. And then also help correct any mispronunciation I did there.
That's perfect. Pahua.
Pahua.
Yep.
Pahua. No, that's important. Here, we'll stand right in the middle. Whereas Community Action has made essential contributions to individuals and families across the nation by creating economic opportunities and strengthening communities. Whereas Community Action is a robust state and local force connecting people to life-changing services and creating pathways to prosperity in 99% of all American counties. And whereas Community Action builds and promotes economic stability as an essential aspect of enabling and enhancing stronger communities and stable homes. And whereas Community Action promotes community-wide solutions to challenges throughout our cities, suburbs, and rural areas. And whereas Community Action delivers innovative services that create greater opportunities for families and children to succeed. And whereas Community Action insists on community participation and involvement, ensuring that all sectors of the community have a voice and will be heard. And whereas Community Action is celebrating 59 years of innovation, impact, and providing proven results for Americans, I, H. William Mutz, the Mayor of the City of Lakeland, and on behalf of the entire Lakeland Commission, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Community Action Month in the city of Lakeland, Florida.
So on behalf of our CEO, Arlene Dobson, along with our agency, the Agriculture and Labor Program, we're located here in Lake Alfred. I want to thank Mayor Muntz, commissioners, city managers for your continued support. Community action, May is Community Action Month for all of us that serve as community action throughout the United States. As mentioned, we have over 1,000 community action agencies throughout the United States. Our goal is to definitely help the communities, help those that are in need, and continue to help them strive to be successful and to make a better living for the families and everybody in the community. So thank you so much for this proclamation.
Thank you for doing so.
3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Secondly, this is Historic Preservation Month, and here to accept that proclamation are its members of Historic Lakeland, the Historic Preservation Board, and Emily Foster, Community Development Senior Planner of the City of Lakeland. So come on up, gang. Hi. A great group of people who care about our city and preserving its past. That's wonderful. I'm coming just a little more this way. Whereas Lakeland has significant architectural and cultural history that should be preserved, protected, and recognized. And whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for revitalizing cities and neighborhoods, fostering civic pride, energizing local economies, encouraging sustainable development, maintaining community character, and enhancing the quality of our lives. You can see why you guys are so busy, all right? Whereas it is important to appreciate the role of history in our city and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in preserving the tangible aspects of the heritage that have shaped us as a community. And whereas the month of May has been designated as Historic Preservation Month by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, in which it recognizes, celebrates, and promotes the diverse historic places that matter to people and communities across our nation. And whereas People Saving Places, quote unquote, is the theme for Historic Preservation Month, which recognizes and celebrates Lakeland citizens for doing that great work of preserving historic places. And whereas for over 40 years, the City of Lakeland's Historic Preservation Board and Historic Lakeland Incorporated have collaborated in the advocacy and the preservation of Lakeland's historic places and are proud to co-sponsor Historic Preservation Month, I, therefore, H. William Muntz, City of Lakeland Mayor, and on behalf of the entire Lakeland Commission, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Historic Preservation Month in the City of Lakeland and encourage the citizens of our great community to participate in this special observance. And then I'm going to let Emily make a comment. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, City Commission, for recognizing this special month. But I'm going to hand it over to some other folks that are here. We've got Melinda Rinker, who is our HBB Vice Chair. Would you like to say?
When has Melinda said no?
I do have to admit that we have been told we are the most fun board at the city. We don't like it boring, so if you're going to come to a meeting that you really want to have some entertainment, come to Historic Preservation. We do have fun. But we really have a great team, and I feel like we have helped so many places and to save them, but to recognize when there are issues with, okay, can we save this, can we not? How can we, if we're going to let a building go, how can we preserve some of those historic elements of it and pass it on to others in the community? And I really love our group. Our team has been fabulous, and I really have enjoyed my time, even though I'm never quite eloquent up there. I've enjoyed my time doing this, so.
Who else? And I'm going to introduce Ann Hilliard, our Historic Lakeland, Inc. current president.
Thank you. A lot of people wonder what the difference is between the Preservation Board and Historic Lakeland, Inc. Historic Lakeland, Inc. is a volunteer organization of citizens just like you who are interested in preserving the character and the quality of the architectural history in Lakeland, but also in educating the public. So we have several education arms. We are delighted to participate in Historic Preservation Month, and we thank you very much.
Natalie Oldenkamp.
Hi. I'm on both boards, so crazy. But on May 22nd, which is next Monday, we have our Historic Preservation Awards at the Polk Theater at 6 o'clock.
Good, yeah.
If y'all could join us, we would really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think what you hear in this is, and of course, the time that we're in, is it's always the balance between growth and history, and it's making certain that we honor both in the process. And I think you guys do a wonderful job of balance in that regard, and I'm so, so grateful, as I know our commission is, for that, and staff.
Yes, thank you all of you.
All right.
Hey. Slide in just a little bit. There we go. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Next, we have National Safe Voting Week. And here to accept the proclamation is the Executive Committee of the Lakeland Sail and Power Squadrons. Come on up in their aqua blue to just give you the feeling of almost being lakeside. Right this way. Don't be shy. Whereas recreational boating is enjoyable and we are fortunate that we have abundant resources to accommodate the wide variety of pleasurable boating demands. Whereas the U.S. Coast Guard statistics show that an average of 700 people die annually in boating-related accidents. Drowning was the reported cause of death in 3/4 of those fatalities. And 88% of those who drowned were not wearing life jackets. And whereas the vast majority of these accidents are human error or poor judgment and were preventable if the boat operators had been well-educated and applied safe boating practices. And whereas celebrating the 109th anniversary this year, the United States Power Squadron, DBA America's Boating Club, is a nonprofit educational organization founded in 1914 dedicated to making boating safer by teaching classes in boating safety, seamanship, navigation, and related subjects. And whereas the United States Power Squadron has nearly 35,000 members organized into 450 squadrons nationwide, our local squadron, the Lakeland Sail and Power Squadron, celebrates its 68th anniversary this year and has been providing boater education, free vessel safety checks in Lakeland and the surrounding areas since 1955. And that leadership team of the Lakeland Sail and Power Squadron consists of Mark Koski, the commander, Ronald James, the education officer, Barbara Bryant, the secretary, Dale Erickson, the member at large, Herb Schock, a member at large, Barbara Erickson, executive officer, Dick Luttrell, administrative officer, Yvonne James, treasurer, Angela Polite. All right. I'm going to just go with that. Assistant education officer, and Dino Garnett, member at large. How do you say your last name?
Payulilo.
See? Payulilo. Or pay it the branch, you know? Okay. The members of the squadron wish to commemorate the efforts of all United States Power Squadron members around the country who provide safe boating education to their members and the public. As a Lakeland City Commission, we also urge those who boat to continually avail themselves of the opportunity to further their boating safety knowledge and implement safe boating habits. And on that behalf, I do announce this as National Safe Boating Week, and who would like to speak? All right, the white shirt wins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, commissioners. I'm the current commander. Actually, Herb's the past commander here. So for Lakeland Sail and Power Squadron, we are a fraternal boating club, hence kind of the hyphenated name. So anyone born after or on or after January 1st, 1988, to operate a boat in the state of Florida, you have to have a boater ID card or boater driver's license. So you have to pass a test to do that. Where do you take that test? We offer that test. So another community service thing that we do is anybody that has a vessel and you're not sure if your safety equipment that's on there is adequate, we perform free vessel safety checks. So either bring the boat to us or we'll come to you, because again, it's all about safe boating. And National Safe Boating Week starts on Sunday at National Week, but the whole idea is to wear your life jackets. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Step over this way, just, there you go, right there. All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Lastly, we are going to, as was mentioned earlier, talk about our Peace Officers Memorial Day and National Police Week 2023. And here to accept that proclamation is Chief Sam Taylor and any staff members that are alongside. So if you would come up, that would be wonderful. And it's just wonderful to have you guys as a team. The more our role as commissioners gets involved with LPD over time, you just come away with nothing but more and deeper respect. And I am so grateful for that. That's the ad-lib part of this, okay? And for the depth of the decision-making that you do. Whereas in 1962 declared May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and week in which is National Police Week, and whereas Police Officers of America have worked devotedly and selflessly on behalf of the people of the nation, regardless of the peril or hazard to themselves. And whereas police officers throughout our communities are dedicated to protecting and serving neighborhoods, schools, and families. And whereas police officers risk their lives daily, as Commissioner Simmons talked about, to ensure public safety and enforce the laws of our land. And whereas the Lakeland community values the courage and devotion of our Lakeland police officers, recognizing our collective prosperity depends upon their integrity, which our law enforcement officers maintain in order to provide peace and security. Nothing else we do matters if we don't have a peaceful city. I mean, it starts here. Now, therefore, I, H. William Mutz, Mayor of the City of Lakeland, and on behalf of the entire Commission, do hereby proclaim May 15th, 2023, as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and celebrate and declare the week of May 15th through the 21st to be designated as Police Week in Lakeland. And as residents, we join in the deserved recognition of the service provided by the men and women who night and day protect us through enforcement of our laws as we honor those federal, state, and municipal officers who have been killed or disabled in the line of duty. In witness whereof I have set my seal. And I'm going to give this mic to our chief.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to accept this award on behalf of the men and women you see standing up here, and also the men and women that are out and answering the calls right now as we speak. Since we are the last proclamation, I'll be brief, but so you can get your meeting started. But I'm so honored to be able to work with these true professionals that you see standing up here. And we're missing Assistant Chief Tarver and Captain Ed Kane. But I come to work every day and in awe, and you heard just a little piece of it this morning about the forward thinking, and they're always looking to get better. They're always looking to do something innovative. And I can tell you the stuff that the assistant chiefs come up with and the captains come up with, it floors me every day when I walk into our staff. And so I'm incredibly honored to be associated with you guys. You bless me every day. So thank you for this award, Mayor.
That'll work. That'll work. All right. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, that brings us then to the committee reports and related items. And so we have a real estate and transportation report that will be given by the Chairman Music of that committee.
Thank you, Mayor. The Real Estate and Transportation Committee met in the City Commission conference room. Commissioner Bill Reed and Mayor Bill Mutz were present. Commissioner Mike Music, Chair, and Chad McLeod, member, were absent. Commissioner Sarah McCarley and Samuel Simmons were present along with staff and the media. In order to establish a quorum, Mayor Mutz appointed himself as temporary member of the committee and appointed Commissioner Bill Reed as the temporary chair. Commissioner Bill Reed called the meeting to order at 8:21 a.m. The first item of business was the vacation of public right-of-way located north of West Peachtree Street, south of West Magnolia Street, east of North Virginia Avenue, and west of North New York Avenue. The developer of the real property located immediately to the north and south of an existing 20-foot public right-of-way located north of West Peachtree Street, south of West Magnolia, and east of North Virginia Avenue, and west of North New York Avenue, had requested that the city vacate said right-of-way in order to facilitate the construction of a multifamily development tentatively named Peachtree Flats. This multifamily development had been approved through development review, and the city of Lakeland is ready to move forward in the construction phase. The developer has worked with various public and private utilities to remove their facilities to the right-of-way, and no objection remains from the utilities to the proposed vacation. The developer has agreed to pay for the right-of-way on the per square foot basis and has been calculated at $2.96 per square foot with a total of $17,168. Staff recommended that the City Commission vacate the described right-of-way upon the payment of the total sum of $17,168 and authorize the appropriate city officials to execute the instrument necessary to finalize that vacation. The action taken was Mayor Bill Mutz approved the right-of-way made a motion of approval. Commissioner Bill Reed seconded, and the motion carried unanimously. The second item was a final amendment to a lease option agreement with New Cellular PCS LLC. What's that?
Singular.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did I say? Cellular. Singular Wireless PCS LLC. This is the proposed First Amendment to the option and lease agreement between the City Orlando Utilities Commission, OUC, and New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, known as New Singular, for the lease of 2,500 square feet of land and its cell tower related equipment located at 2727 East Lake Parker Drive. Lakeland Electric's Technical Training Center is located there. This land is jointly owned by both the city, 60% ownership, and OUC has 40% ownership interest. The original document, and then Bell South Mobility Incorporated, was approved by the City Commission and OUC on October 20th, 1998. The agreement was for the initial term of 10 years and included 3 additional 5-year renewal options. The current agreement is now in its third and final renewal period, which will expire October 19th, 2023. Accordingly, the parties to the agreement are seeking to amend the agreement to provide additional renewal periods, adjust the rental rate, and clarify the specific terms and conditions. This First Amendment seeks to provide 6 additional 5-year renewal periods, the first of which would be effective on October 20th, 2023. Subject to the City Commission and OUC approval, the first 3 renewal periods may be automatically exercised by New Singular. The remaining 3 renewal periods require mutual written agreement of the parties. However, the City and OUC retain the right to relocate New Singular during the renewal period in the event that the sale or redevelopment of the site. If the parties are unable to agree on a relocation site, then the agreement could be terminated. In addition, if New Singular terminates the agreement at any time prior to the expiration of the extended terms, it will be required to pay for the total rent due for the remaining months of that term, provided that such payments do not exceed $75,000. Pursuant to the First Amendment, the rent paid by New Singular to the city and OUC will be $31,482.11 per year, commencing October 20th, 2023, during the 5-year renewal period, to the increase of 15% to each subsequent 5-year renewal. The total revenue generated for the first 3 renewal periods pursuant to the First Amendment, if exercised, is $546,608.13, of which the city will receive $327,964.88 for its 60% ownership interest in the land, with the remaining rent paid to OUC based on its 40% ownership interest. Except as provided by the First Amendment, all the conditions of this original agreement remain in full force and effect, including the option of the city and OUC to terminate the agreement in the event that the land is sold or redeveloped if relocation is not feasible. Staff recommended that the City Commission approve the First Amendment with the New Singular and authorize the appropriate city officials to execute all corresponding documents on behalf of the city. The action taken was Mayor Bill Mutz moved for approval of the amendment. Commissioner Bill Reed seconded, and the motion carried unanimously. The committee adjourned at 8:30 a.m.
Would you like to have approval of both of those at the same time and discussion,
or want to take them individually? Who would like to make a motion?
Motion to approve both items.
Okay, a second?
Second.
All right, and discussion. Commissioner Madden. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Music. Did we have, I watched the agenda study, and I did not see any discussion on the ownership interest of OUC. I know you mentioned if it was moved off of the land shared, you know, that would, then we wouldn't pay the 40% interest. I'm just curious, I know that's the land for Unit 3, and that we've had that shared interest. Is that in perpetuity, or where are we on the interest with OUC at that 40%? And then Chuck, could you highlight the boundary of that land that we share with OUC, please?
I'll ask Mr. Davis to make sure I'm pointing at the right direction here. Oops. I believe it's the area immediately around the cell tower site itself. Oh, Mr. Sirianni.
Ownership of OUC jointly with
OUC.
Shared ownership, yes.
Yes, I mean, primarily just around the old Unit 3 is where the ownership has been acquired by the city of Lakeland fully. Ramona, you want to address that?
Yes, and Commissioner Madden, this may be beneficial because obviously I think the mayor had a question early on when we had to push this out for the agenda as to whether or not we had sold a portion of the property, and we did back in 2020. We sold 81 acres. That was jointly, we acquired the 81 acres that was jointly owned by OUC. But that basically left us with just under 350 acres that is still jointly owned by OUC in the city. And I had staff put together, I don't know if this helps or if we can put this. We don't have it. So you can get a sense on what OUC and the city jointly still own, property-wise.
Roughly that area looks something like this, right?
Yes.
More specific than that.
There's I think the pink portions on that map that you're holding up, I think believe that is Lakeland-owned property, and the yellow portion is jointly. And at the very tip of that yellow portion is where you're going to find where that cell tower is located. On the yellow, all the way down, that tip. Yep, that's it. But you're correct that if for some reason that agreement would terminate, we would terminate the agreement with New Singular, OUC wouldn't have any more interest in a share of the revenue we generate if that cell tower was located to property that was owned by the city.
It is also not the land Unit 3 was on. In other words, the pink land that Unit 3 was on.
Correct. It is not the same portion of parcel of property.
That property we now own.
Correct. And that was 81 acres back in 2020.
Okay, other questions, comments? Any questions or comments from any members of the audience? Seeing none, this is a action item voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. All right. That brings us to the consent agenda, which is represented by the minutes as well as items 7A and B on the agenda. Is there
For approval?
a motion to approve? Is a second?
Second.
All right. We'll give that to Commissioner Simmons. All right. And discussion by commissioners. Any discussion by any members of the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. There are no requests to appear from the general public. We do have there is not an equalization hearing at this meeting, and then we go to 3A, 1, which is ordinance's second reading, and that would be City Attorney Davis.
Mr. Mayor, we have 4 ordinances for a public hearing this morning and consideration of adoption. The first is proposed ordinance number 23-019, an ordinance relating to zoning, making findings, providing for a change in zoning from O2 Limited Impact Office to PUD Plan Unit Development zoning to allow for a professional office and limited office support retail and personal service uses on property located at 2330 Commerce Point Drive, providing conditions, finding conformity with the comprehensive plan, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
And a second. Discussion by commissioners or questions?
Is Chuck going to make a presentation of any sort, or are we going to just,
Not unless there are any specific questions by the commissioner or by the public. I know the applicant is also here in case there are specific questions of them, but I wasn't planning on making a presentation unless you had additional questions.
there again, I think I asked you on Friday, the total square footage is about 79,000 square feet, is that correct?
That's correct.
This is the old Summit site, I presume?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions or comments by members of the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. Item number 2.
Next is proposed ordinance number 23-020, an ordinance relating to zoning, making findings, approving a conditional use to allow for the construction of 2 duplexes on property located at 830 Lakeshore Drive, finding conformity with the comprehensive plan, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Move to approve.
And is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion by commissioners. Any discussion or questions by members of the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by
Mr.
saying
Mayor.
aye. Oops.
I think these are roll call as
On ordinance?
ordinances.
I apologize.
And the
Okay.
first one as well, sir.
Let's go back then and do, my apology. Let's go back to ordinance 1, and we're going to take that vote again, and we'll start with Commissioner Simmons.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
All right, and that was unanimous. And then number 2, we'll start with Commissioner McLeod.
Aye.
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 Unanimous as well. Number 3.
3 is proposed ordinance number 23-021, an ordinance relating to zoning, adopting findings, providing for PUD, Plan Unit Development zoning to allow for the development of 19,600 square feet of professional office-type research and development, warehouse, storage, and limited industrial service wholesale trade uses on approximately 2.46 acres located at 2815 West Pipkin Road, finding conformity with the comprehensive plan, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion by commissioners? Any discussion or questions by members of the audience? Seeing none, this is a roll call. Commissioner Simmons?
Aye.
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 Yes.
Aye.
Unanimously passes.
The last ordinance for public hearing this morning is proposed ordinance number 23-022, an ordinance relating to zoning, making findings, amending ordinance 3470 as amended to provide for a major modification of PUD Plan Unit Development zoning to allow for the construction of a 41,000 square foot field house building, a 4,000 square foot expansion of an existing child care building, and relocation of existing off-street parking facilities on property located at 3620 Cleveland Heights Boulevard, providing conditions, finding conformity with the comprehensive plan, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
And a second. All right, discussion by commissioners. Yes, Commissioner Reed.
Thank you. I may need the applicant to come up for a minute. What is the operational time of this particular operation going to start? How many students do you anticipate having at this facility?
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Bart Allen. I'm a land use attorney with the Peterson and Myers Law Firm. I'm here this morning on behalf of the applicant, the YMCA of West Central Florida. I've got with me this morning Dr. Elaine Thompson and the new executive director, Mr. Zach Ford. Commissioner Reed, where we are in the process, we're assuming a favorable vote here in just a couple of minutes. We anticipate submitting site plans into the city's process in June. We've already submitted to the Water Management District, but we had to wait to get through some of these processes to kind of understand what might unfold with quasi judicial hearings and conditional uses and PUDs to get too far in advance. We didn't want to get too far down the road in engineering before we, were comfortable with where we stood on the PUD. We would anticipate the phase 1 of the construction to hopefully start construction in September of this year, and that would likely be with the parking areas. I can pull up a site map, or we can just kind of.
Let's pull it up.
There you go. So as you can see, the expansion is, the major portion of the expansion is the gray area, shaded area in the northwest corner. It's about a 41,000 square foot field house. That's essentially where a majority of the parking is today, right? So we will be moving the parking first, then commencing construction of the field house, hopefully in March of '24. Then renovations with interior renovations related to the field house, as well as the child care area, or the existing wellness building in July of '24. And then the child care expansion will be running on its own separate course because they're not as closely interrelated. This will be a phased construction because we have to continue operations of the YMCA and making sure that, parking is in place, making sure that, activities can continue, and there's as little disruption as possible. So that is the general schedule. Of course, that's subject to change. As it relates to kids, right now the facility is rated for about 242 children as it relates to the child care. Don't have a final number because DCF ultimately will make that determination once the construction is completed, but we anticipate it could be up to about 400 children. So we're looking, at a substantial increase in the ability to have children on site.
Thank you. There again, my major concern was, if we spoke, and have we done any traffic study yet? That won't be done until we do the PUD. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct. As part of the zoning process, there was a full traffic study conducted for the expansion. There are some existing operational issues at the Cleveland Heights Westover intersection, primarily related to the southbound left turn lane storage length. And so as part of the conditions of approval is that the YMCA and the city would work together to extend that southbound left turn lane by really no more than 40 feet. There's a limited amount of area there that the turn lane could be extended. And so the intent is either the city would do it, or using using other types of funds to be able to implement it by the city. But we would work that out so that it's coordinated with construction to avoid disruptions to the motoring public.
I questioned the stacking lane on Friday on what's the road to the south? What do they call that road?
Westover Street is the east-west road.
Just Westover Road to the east as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. They've got a stacking lane there, because that was, as we're aware, that area is congested at certain times of the day. And this is probably going to make it more so, but we go to the park, I have some grandkids that play ball back in there, and it's not an issue now. And I just hate to see it become a bigger issue, but I'm not opposed to the plan and stuff. I'm just concerned about the traffic and how it's going to affect it. Are we going to get another bite at the apple per se on that, or is that, once we approve this, it's etched in stone and they can do what they want to do, regardless of if there's 1,000 more cars today?
At this point, really, the zoning conditions would reflect what would be a concurrency requirement as part of the development plan. And so the way we would work it out there is that the city, because there are existing issues with that southbound left turn lane on Cleveland Heights and Westover, we would work on that as the city. There's some other conditions in there related to street lighting on the west side of the street to make the crosswalks more visible. The city's offered to do that as well. What the YMCA has done is they've proposed to relocate the Westover Drive, the western access point, further east, so it's further away from the traffic light to improve the queuing and the stacking. So that would offset the project's impacts. We do want to preserve, there's a rather large tree on the kind of the central part of the southern border against Westover's right-of-way. So we want to preserve that, so we don't want to move the driveway too far to the east. But there are other additional enhancements as well as pedestrian connectivity, coordination with the Three Parks Trail West project that will begin construction later on this year. And so there's a lot of coordination and synergies between what the city is doing and what the YMCA would be doing as part of this project.
Do you have any idea what the cost is going to be to the city for these improvements?
In terms of the turn lane extension, we haven't quantified that yet. It's a minimal minimum amount of work that would need to be done. It's really just bringing the nose of the southern median back, no more than 40 feet. So the intent would be not to impact the palm tree that's in, the southernmost palm tree in that median area. The neighborhood sign may have to get relocated, but those are all minimal costs because of the configuration of the road. There would be very limited amount of curbing. It would just be adding a little bit of asphalt to where the median stops today.
And of course, I don't recall, is there a stacking lane on Cleveland Heights to make a left turn going south?
Going south, there is a left turn lane there. We went out and verified what was coming out of the applicant's traffic study. There were some cycles, and this was the first week of April. We went out on a Tuesday, took a look at the traffic operations. There were some signal cycles where traffic was backing into that inside through lane on Cleveland Heights, but it was for a very small period of time, and we were only talking maybe 2 or 3 vehicles at most during that time. So that's where we're comfortable that by extending the turn lane back as much as we're recommending, that would at least mitigate the project's impacts going forward.
I'm just concerned about that. And of course, I see in the, I think I read last night where they're changing the times for school starting for high schools and middle schools, moving them back to after 8 o'clock. And this will create a bigger issue for the elementary schools, I believe, for start at those times.
That's something we haven't been able to digest, that legislation that was signed into law to change those start times, but there are a number of questions about how that would interact with the overall AM peak period of just background commuting traffic. That's certainly something we're going to be working on with the school district going forward.
It's also something we expect to see a lot of resistance towards on a longer term basis.
And just to add to, Mr. Barmby's really given you all the information that I could ever provide related to transportation. But just specifically as it relates on Westover Street, the entrance today is about 185 feet from the intersection. As it functions today, we're moving that further east into Westover Street, another 75 feet, so it'll be over 250 feet in. So that's going to create a lot more stacking there on Westover Street for that intersection. And to Mr. Barmby's point, I even went out, I'm a lawyer, right? But I went out and watched traffic one afternoon, which was interesting for me. And it was, well, what I found to be interesting, and again, I am not a transportation engineer by any stretch of the imagination, is the queuing that was being caused even further down the road, down toward Highland, and how much that was backing up and creating backups all the way this far north. So I think what Chuck's saying is that there are some existing conditions out there, and I think that the recommendation is appropriate to address all the impacts, all those things being considered. So with that, if there's any other questions, we're here.
And most of that, there are. Most of that queuing is south of the Y as well. Commissioner Madden.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to highlight the questions that come up with regard to traffic and congestion, and just kind of perpetuating the car-centric approach that we've had to take in a suburban sprawl model of development, and that which we're trying to mitigate long-term going into a vibrant, walkable community. I'm looking at my friend Chuck over there. And I feel like that we could really use this as an example to highlight as a best practice that for a decade we've been working on the 3-park trail. And we've been working on the connectivity for pedestrians and bikes in this area, beautiful paths that go beyond Peterson Park over to the New Jersey neighborhoods. And some of our biggest constraints on Edgewood and on Cleveland Heights could be averted if families could start to feel safe about their children taking their bikes and walking to Peterson Park for baseball practice. I know myself with 5 boys who played baseball, I couldn't even logistically get them all to their practices and their different games. And if I would have lived in the neighborhood and could have sent them along on their bike, it would have been a much preferred method of transportation. I also sat in the carpool line at Carlton Palmore with 3 different children at that school. So if we can just kind of think about this every time as the leaders of the city, think about this as a public-private partnership with the YMCA, which it was fascinating to understand that even healthcare providers, would ask questions of how vibrant your YMCA is, as a decision maker for coming to your community, and adding this field house. Now, I understand that I have trouble riding my bike to work when I have to keep my hair and, you know, depending on my outfit and how many
And the
places I have to
humidity.
go. But if I'm going to Peterson Park or to the field house, I certainly can put my hair in a ponytail and ride my bike. And so if this isn't a case in point for a best case scenario of what we've done for a decade, the amount of money we've spent on the three-park trail, trying to get citizens to think of new methods of getting places, I think where could we start but here in this whole area of our city, that it could be so vibrant, people would want to clamor to live in these houses in this area because of the amenities with the YMCA, with Peterson Park, with Common Ground Park, with the golf course, I mean, the dog park. It is just really becoming what we've hoped and dreamed for a decade. And I just hope that our communications department, I hope our friends at the YMCA, I hope our Parks and Rec department will all champion this, and maybe we could even come up with some kind of a mayor's challenge, because I know I see my mayor riding his bike in this area all of the time, and this is his neighborhood, that if we could all just kind of collectively think of and envision our city as that walkable, vibrant place, we wouldn't have to be then sitting in carpool lines for hours a day, getting our kids to practice and to school. So I just wanted to say that this is a real unique opportunity we have, you know, another kind of P3 on how to get to work and school differently.
We're a little concerned you don't have enough bike racks. Okay.
And we do have a condition to add bike racks. And another point on that, Commissioner Madden, is we are removing the right in, right out on the Cleveland Heights on the north end of the site. So that's going to eliminate a conflict point right there.
Yes.
As it relates to the trail. So I think what you're seeing is exactly to your point, an overall improvement to that pedestrian, connection.
This is a transformational property opportunity for us, and for the Y to be making this investment and acquiring the support from the community to be able to do so, and for the health that comes from this, which we spent a lot of this morning talking about already. You know, mental health begins with good physical health, you know, and the ability to exercise and to be express. And so the planning is wonderful, and I appreciate the concerns about traffic. They're important for us. Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Mayor. And along those lines, this might be a question for Dr. Thompson, but I'd love to hear a little bit about the long-term vision and how this facility, we've talked about it, it's exciting what it brings to the community, but just from your perspective and the board's, how the Y will be able to serve more children and families compared to what it does today, which is a lot, and how it will serve our community for many, many years.
Thank you, Commissioner McLeod. And also get to Commissioner Madden's point. This has been a long term for being a director of the Y Board for a while now. In the view of the park trail, I mean, I think you know that the Y gave up land actually in order to make sure that that trail got completed. So we're so happy to be part of that. And to get back to Mr. Allen's comments, yeah, we think this is safer. I mean, we think it actually improves the traffic in the situation, even though that there will be some increased volume. So I think from that perspective, working again with the Planning and Zoning Commission, with the traffic studies, getting rid of those access points in Cleveland, moving down the one on Westover, we think we'll do a better job. We also think, because we're adding about 150 parking spots, it actually at peak times when Peterson Park is having a hard time parking its park people, that obviously every time we're not using ours, they can use ours. We have a wonderful relationship with the city to share parking spots too. So I think overall, busy coordination. Hopefully with the bike, it'll be wonderful. Now to get back to your point, you know, I'm passionate about the Y. You know, I think it's just a place where we really have iconic legacy organization that builds mind, body, and spirit. One of the biggest joys for me over the last couple of years to kind of help work that team is to see that the diversity, inclusion, and the equity is just who we are. When those kids are there playing in any of them, the child care building or the basketball team, it doesn't matter if that child's coming from McKeel or if they're coming from private schools or they're coming from Crystal Lake. All of those children are totally respected and loved by our organization to do the very best of them. Our child care building in the back, though, is not safe as an elementary school is right now. We're not safe for active shooters. So one of the big reasons we're improving the child care building will be to put up all of the protections that you have if you were at Carlton Palmer, but you would have in our facilities. Equally, our child care programs for the sports side are maxed out. We really can't take any more basketball kids. We can't take any more indoor soccer kids. So the number that Bart gave you for our child care That's the DCF-approved childcare building that will do preschool and after-school programs. We'll go from about that 240 to 400. But our youth sports programs right now run over 400 every session now, and we'll be able to probably increase that at least to 800 children. And for the summer camp programs, because they run both out of the Y building and out of the child care building, we'd be able to really do so much more for the children for the summer camp programs in addition. One of the proud points, again, when you talk about our legacy, it relates to the boating safety issue. You know, this last 10 weeks, we've had over 1,600 kindergartners at the Y having a 3-week session of prevention for drowning. We know that is the #1 cause for children of that age to die in Florida is actually from drowning. And so they have 2 weeks of in class. It's a partnership with Polk County School District that we have all of those children take a drowning prevention course in the water. If they can't learn how to prevent their drowning, we actually give them scholarships for swimming lessons in the summer. Every year we give about $250,000 of free scholarships for our children, our members, or youth, because, you know, the YMCA obviously is a not-for-profit, you know, organization. So we are passionate about youth. We think there's a lot more we can do in the future to partner with other organizations. We do most of our work now with Polk County School District. Their chief academic officer just joined our board. Our curriculums are getting advanced to make sure that if you're in our after-school programs, that you are reading, that you are learning math, in addition to having the fun of physical activities and being cared and loved for by our staff. So we are about youth safety, and healthy living across, you know, all of the people that are there. That Y just had no investment in its building for like 20 years. It was falling apart. If we don't do this massive investment into it, it really can't keep itself going. It's a $21 million project. The community has supported it right now at $20,142,000 of pledges raised. So I do think to get to Commissioner's Reed's about the timetables, if all of our approvals, we have a great team working on it, can happen, we do think we can fund the project now at this time too.
Questions?
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Music.
Really just a comment. It makes sense that, you know, I mean, we came here in 1978, the year after it first opened, so it was new and fresh, and, you know, and we've enjoyed the YMCA. My family and my kids have attended all those things. So it makes sense. We're always talking about growth, you know, and this is the one area that's got to continue to grow with us to be able to do what it is that we're looking for. So well done.
The city committees have been just really a pleasure to work with, and they have made the project better. So I'm really appreciative of their work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Right, any other questions or comments? Any from the audience at all? Any comments, not rounding up?
Your word of the day.
That you'd like to make? Well, I'll do a little round out tonight. Seeing none, this is a roll call vote, and we'll start with Commissioner McLeod.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Unanimously and enthusiastically approved, and we thank you for your patience today. All right, resolutions, B1.
One is proposed resolution number 23-022, a resolution relating to public right-of-way, making findings, declaring the City Commission's intention to adopt an ordinance vacating public right-of-way located north of West Peachtree Street, south of West Magnolia Street, east of North Virginia Avenue, and west of North New York Avenue, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Discussion by commissioners. Seeing none, any questions or discussion by members of the audience? Coming back to the commission, Commissioner Reed.
I'm glad that we're seeing people pay for some stuff and opposed to giving it to them, so.
All right.
$17,000 will help.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's 3 police cars, 5 police cars, right? Okay, plus. Any other questions by the members of the audience? Seeing none, this is a roll call. Commissioner Simmons?
Aye.
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 So unanimously passes. B2.
Proposed resolution number 23-023, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lakeland, Florida, authorizing execution of agreements with the Florida Department of Transportation for the subordination of city utility interests on property located at U.S. Highway 98 near Big Cypress Boulevard and Pioneer Drive, described as parcels 101.2, 105.4, 106.4, and 107.4, making findings, providing an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve in a second.
Second.
Second. And discussion by commissioners or questions. Commissioner Reed.
Where is Big Cypress Boulevard?
probably about a mile north of where US 98 North becomes two-lane, on the.
Cypress Lakes.
Exactly, right at the main entrance to Cypress Lakes neighborhood.
Okay,
Golf course, right along the road.
okay, so this is way north, Tony. I was looking closer in, but that's up near Rockbridge Road area. Okay.
And this has been an intersection of fatal accidents, too. And so that's part of this process. I was just through there yesterday.
The same question,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed. I had no idea where Big Cypress was located, so thanks for that question.
You have to go north where it actually comes together, and it's just about a mile. Any other questions by members of the commission? Any by members of the audience? This is a resolution. Commissioner McLeod?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Aye. Unanimously passes.
Last is proposed resolution number 23-024, a resolution expressing the intent of the city of Lakeland, Florida, to incur costs related to various capital improvements to the electric utility system, expressing the intent for purposes of compliance with the United States Treasury Regulations, Section 1.150-2, to reimburse with the proceeds of revenue bonds the capital expenditures made with respect to such project, providing for the intent for the future issuance by the city of notes, bonds, or other obligations in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount not exceeding $70 million, which shall be applied to pay the cost of such project, providing an effective date.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
In a second?
Second.
All right. Discussion by commissioners. We had some good discussion on this in the agenda study. Seeing none, any from members of the audience? All right, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Simmons?
Aye.
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 Also unanimously passes. That brings us to a cease meeting as a commission, and we begin to meet as a community redevelopment agency, and we have a proposed resolution A1.
Yes, proposed resolution number CRA 23-001 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lakeland, Florida, in its capacity as the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Lakeland, releasing phosphate, mineral, petroleum, and certain other rights with respect to approximately 46.65 acres of real property located at the eastern terminus of Virginia Street in Mulberry, Florida, making findings, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Discussion by commissioners. These are mining rights, and any discussion or questions by members of the audience?
One more.
Yes, Commissioner Reed. That's all right.
Citizens may want to know how we came by that property. I know it's obscure from us, but there again, I think Palmer did a good job, but for the general public, they may
Good suggestion.
give a light explanation.
Sure. Back in the 90s, the Lakeland Downtown Development Authority was actually the CRA agency for the city of Lakeland. And because of the complication of the tax laws back then, several different property exchanges occurred. The end result of which was that the LDDA became the owner of the Terrace Hotel in downtown Lakeland. Part of that transaction was this property in Mulberry, ironically enough. When the LDDA sold the property in Mulberry, Florida statutes provides for the automatic reservation of mineral, petroleum, phosphate type rights in the property, unless those are affirmatively released by law. When any local government sells property, they reserve those rights. Those rights were not released back in the 90s, so they were reserved to the LDDA as the CRA body for the city of Lakeland. The City Commission, back around 2000, actually appointed itself as the CRA for the city of Lakeland, so that the City Commission succeeded to those reservation of mineral rights, and now Highland Homes is seeking to develop this property in Mulberry. There's a picture of it there on the screen there, outlined in orange. So they, as part of their title work, discovered that this needed to be released, so they've approached the city to ask for that release, and that's what this resolution accomplishes.
Thank you again for that. Any questions by any members of the audience? This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Simmons?
Aye.
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 That unanimously passes. That we'll cease to meet as a community redevelopment agency, reconvene as a commission, and that takes us to City Manager 5A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two items for presentation today. The first item is regarding a recommendation to award for the RFQ number 2311 for construction manager at risk services for Lake Crago Park Phase 3 to Rada Construction. The Lake Crago Park currently has a dog park, restroom facility, boat ramp, recreation center, boathouse, and fishing dock. Phase 3, this phase of Lake Crago, will construct 3 competitive multi-purpose sports fields with sports field lighting, a restroom facility, parking, landscaping, and irrigation. The city went through a request for qualification process, and the city was seeking guaranteed maximum pricing for the construction of Phase 3 here at Lake Crago, and also seeking those submitting to demonstrate their qualifications and experiences. The city received 2 submittals. The selection committee for the city went through the process of evaluating those submittals, and they ranked as the most responsive and qualified was number 1, Rada Construction, who is located in Lakeland, Florida. Number 2 was Miller Construction Management, also located in Lakeland, Florida. The city did go through the notice of intent process back in December. Funds for the construction of this Phase 3 are budgeted in the 2023 Public Improvement Fund. $2,240,143 of the funds will be District 1 Parks and Recreation Impact Fees. $200,000 are allocated from the Florida Recreation Development Assistance Program grant funds, and there's $548,307 from the Public Improvement Fund itself. The total project budget is $2,987,828. The project will begin construction within 90 days of the contract execution, and will take approximately 1 year to complete. So the recommendation is that the City Commission would approve the ranking of the firms coming forward from the selection committee, and would also execute a contract with Rada Construction as presented. One additional piece of information, Commissioner Reed had asked on Friday about the orientation of the fields and why they weren't north and south, I believe it was. And so Pam Page looked at that, and we have had to work with one of the regulatory agencies on some of the adjacent property to those fields. There's some very large, mature oak trees that are intended to be saved, and so the fields have been oriented around that sensitive area there. With that completes presentation.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And a second, okay, and discussion by commissioners or questions? Commissioner Reed and then Commissioner Madden.
Can we put this little map up so that people can see it on the, we have a map on a computer, but can it be shown?
We don't have the overhead projector that we have across the street.
Not on the, okay, all right.
This has been passed out though, Bill.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Ed, did you want to make a comment on that?
I just wanted,
Okay.
the general public could have an idea what it would look like.
Excellent. Commissioner Madden.
Well, I know he wants to show it because it's so beautiful. I mean, it really is, with all of the lakes. Every time we look at our Parks and Recs team and what they do, it's just magical that we have so many amenities in Lakeland. I just wanted to point out that we had Stacy talk about the butterfly habitat at the last meeting. And that was supposed to be, he's going to be integrating those plants around the dog park, is that correct? So I thought that should probably be on our map, butterfly habitat. I'm looking at Pam and Bob back there with all the different things that we're doing out there. But I did listen to the agenda study, and I was thankful, Commissioner Reed, that you talked about the orientation of the field, and certainly understand the sensitivity of the trees. We want to keep the tree canopy, absolutely. So, that was my main comment. I agree with Commissioner Reed. I wish that the community could see. You hear about Lake Crago. I don't think a lot of people still, if you live on the south side, have even been out there to just see what a majestic and beautiful piece of property, just with all of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lakes intertwined. It's just beautiful.
And Commissioners, we'll make sure that communications and Kevin Cook can post that, the graphic that you're all looking at on the city's social media platforms so that the public can see that. As was mentioned on Friday, you know, the master planning of Lake Crago was actually done years back. These are just the various different phases working our way through to the completion of the full build out of the park.
Any other Commissioner Music?
Yeah, just to bounce off of Stephanie's comment there, I was at a wedding a month and a half ago or so, and you know, as I'm sitting and talking with everybody in the reception afterwards, I would say probably 90% of the attendees had never been to that park, and I mean, it's a hidden gem, and I don't know why it's hidden because it's out there and it's beautiful. It is. We have done such a good job, and you know, kudos to the department. But yeah, I don't know what else we can do, right? But it is literally one of the most amazing parks anywhere. So
It was a beautiful venue for that, wasn't it?
it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was perfect for that. Yes.
So people that go out just are staring outside. It's wonderful.
Mhm.
All right. Any comments by commissioners? Then are there any from the audience? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. That brings us to 5B.
Okay, the next item that I have is a recommendation regarding a task authorization with Geosyntec Consultants for a Lake Morton sediment treatment study. Lake Morton is one of the priority lakes within the city of Lakeland, which has current regulatory mandate requiring reduction of nutrients. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection has placed Lake Morton on the verified impaired waters list. This Lake Morton sediment treatment study will be conducted in 2 phases to evaluate various sediment treatment options to reduce internal nutrient loads from sediment recycling and to improve surface water quality. Major elements of this study, you've seen these come forward before, have been developed and will be completed as part of the study. Results of the study will be used to assist the city in planning, permitting, and budgeting for Lake Morton sediment treatment and lake restoration projects moving forward. Funding for the project in the not-to-exceed amount of $245,677.70 is provided in the 2023 stormwater capital improvement budget. And so the recommendation is that the commission authorize city officials to execute the task authorization with Geosyntec for the study as presented.
Is there a motion to approve? And a second. Okay, discussion by commissioners? Yes, sir. Commissioner Reed.
We've done some studies on different lakes in the past. This one seems substantially higher than the other ones we've done.
I will call on Lori, who you're all familiar with, and I'm sure it's related to the cost increases that we're seeing in almost everything that we do right now related to, you know, material, labor, and fuel.
Morning, Lori Smith, Lakes and Stormwater Division. Excuse me, thank you. Great question. Yes, it is a little bit more expensive than our previous studies, but this is a much more detailed and in-depth study. Typically, we're just looking at the different products. This one's taking it one step further to look at the appropriate dose. And we've found that spending that extra money up front will allow us to be more productive when we actually go to a treatment, rather than just kind of saying we believe this dose is going to work. So by able to do the additional study, we'll have the correct dose. This also being, you know, a lake that has a lot of wildlife on it, we want to make sure that we aren't overdosing the lake.
Require anything like we did Lake Hollingsworth, or is this going to be strictly a kind of a cleansing of the muck and sediment on the bottom?
This is actually not going to be a muck removal.
I realize that, but we don't know which one's going to be best. I just wanted your own personal opinion, what you thought it might be.
It is going to be one of 3 different types of, it's a chemical amendment that you put into the lake, and it creates a barrier kind of on the top of the sediment, and it reduces the amount of recycling to come out from those sediments.
You would expect it probably to be more barrier than to be removal.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Other questions? Any other questions by the members of the audience? All right, this is a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. Thank you, Lori, very much. That brings us back to City Attorney, 6A1.
Mr. Mayor, we have two ordinances for first reading this morning that will be read by title only, and we'll come back for a public hearing on June 5th. The first is proposed ordinance number 23-023, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Lakeland, Florida, relating to the City of Lakeland Employee Pension Plan, amending Section 23.4.5 of Article 2 of Division 2 of the Charter of the City of Lakeland, Florida, to expand the Deferred Retirement Option Plan participation period and amend terminology, providing for codification, providing for severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing an effective date. Just briefly on that one, at agenda study on Friday, some questions were asked about the relationship between this and the salary and pay benefit study that is currently going on. Then subsequent to agenda study, I received a communication from Commissioner McCarley, who indicated that it was her preference that this be tabled until that benefit salary study is completed. So I'm just passing that on her behalf, a request to table this. I mean, this is only first reading of the ordinance, so there will be another opportunity to consider this, assuming it's not tabled today on June 5th. But I did want to pass along her preference on that.
How would this relate to our salary study?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that question. There really should not be a correlation in my view, and this is after a lot of discussion and work with our senior management team, our department directors, between this request and that class and compensation analysis. There will be a benefits benchmarking type process that will occur as part of the class and compensation study. But, you know, as we have discussed, the DROP program saves the city a tremendous amount of money, because those who are in DROP, the city does not contribute then toward their pension payments during that time. So there's a tremendous amount of savings. So I cannot see a way where we would either increase or decrease our class and compensation package, you know, based upon some connection to this DROP program. I think it's two separate issues, and one really shouldn't be considered with the other. You know, we talked on Friday about the process that we've gone through to get here. This is a request coming forward from the Employees Association Board. They had made the request when they saw this coming forward from the police department, and you'll recall when that was approved. I asked them to hold off. We've gone through an extensive process to make sure that we surveyed all of the employees. This was not just the EA board's recommendation. We saw about a 72% preference for this extension from the employees who were surveyed, and so it is meaningful and it is needed. And it's needed sooner than later. And so, for instance, when we talk about those who are in DROP, and we've talked some time about the challenges right now in the marketplace for, you know, recruiting and retaining employees. To give you an example of that, we had 2 employees who dropped on Friday, who now this extension is unavailable to, just based on timing. And those employees came, one was, both had more than 24 years of service. One came from solid waste, and the other came from electric production. Had they been interested, it would have been great if we could have kept them. If you look between today and the end of the year, and I'm just use that time frame because, as we've discussed, some of the employees are part and subject to a collective bargaining agreement, and so depending on when those get ratified. But if you look out to the end of the year, we have 15 other employees with that type of tenure from all different departments and divisions around the city who will be dropping out, who with this extension will have the ability to stay longer, and we certainly need that right now. And I know this was, and there's been some comments made about, you know, the need and the difficulty in recruiting and retaining police officers, but it is certainly not just police officers. If you look at our retention rates and you look at the positions that we are hiring for most, what we're presently experiencing, it's grounds maintenance workers, it's police officers, it's solid waste drivers and workers, it's office support specialists, it's building maintenance employees, it's emergency communication specialists, it's engineers, it's water and wastewater operators. It's a lot of different employees that are not just law enforcement. I would also share with you about 6 months ago, I asked Sherry in Retirement Services to see what we could find out about what other cities around the state have done. I will tell you, admittedly, I'd like to be a leader in this area. We want to be and strive to be one of the best employers in Central Florida. And so when we take a look at other cities, just to give you some examples, and these are all over the state, and then I'll talk about locally, but Boca Raton, for their general employees, their time frame that they can be in a drop is 7 years, which is equal to their police and fire employees, also each having 7 years of opportunity there. Pembroke Pines, for their general employees, it's 8 years, which is again equal to their police and fire, each having 8 years, as we recently approved here in Lakeland. When you look at Pompano Beach, for certain general employees, based on their years of service, they have the opportunity to be in drop up to a maximum of 8 years. Their police department, it's only 5. And their fire department, it's 8, equal. In Tampa, the city of Tampa, their general employees can be in drop for up to 7 years max, while both their police and fire are limited to 5 years. I took some time over the weekend, and there's been some good communications with the other city managers around Polk County to kind of get a temperature for what others locally are doing. Both Haines City and Lake Wells, their city managers are considering a similar effort in extending the drop opportunity. Lake Alfred has reported that next month they will be bringing forward a proposed ordinance similar for their general employees as well. In Auburndale recently extended both their police and fire from 5 years to 8. For their general employees in Auburndale, the number of years that they can spend in drop is unlimited. They can stay in drop for as many years as they are eligible for, and that's based on their own personal decisions. So I say all of these things just to say that I'm advocating for the employees who came forward, who not only through the Employees Association, but through their own individual votes are asking for this from an organizational standpoint, from a city management standpoint. We're trying to retain and recruit everybody we can. And having this to put out there as another option where someone could better fund their retirement puts us in a very good competitive situation. So just wanted to make those comments and give you some idea as to the magnitude and the rationale behind this request.
Do you have another comment you'd like to
Just
make?
again, procedurally, this is only first reading, so you
Understand.
you have an opportunity to think about this some more and discuss
Sure.
this some more.
I just would like to make sure we're unloading all the elements in this conversation, if possible. On a cost basis, and I'm turning towards our finance director, who bears the cost of, what would the cost be incrementally of adopting this program to taxpayers?
The actuary has determined, I'll talk about the police first. The police adopted this, and their actuary came out and said there is no actuarial cost associated with this. We know on a cash basis, we save money, a great deal of money, because we're not contributing to those employees' pension plan while they're in this. Okay, so we actuarially, it's neutral. On a cash basis, we save a good deal of money. With the general employees' pension plan, it was an interesting discussion between GRS, who's the actuary for the General Employees Pension Plan, and Jeff Stearns, and then I, but mainly Jeff Stearns, and they talked about it, and the actuary said, I'm going to have to pick a number of 0.01% as the absolute worst case scenario, but he said, there is no way that I can calculate that this is ever going to cost anything. You've got less than 30% of the people. So essentially, there is no cost to this on a long-term basis. And again, just for the general employees, we used the snapshot of a number of months ago, 145 people were in drop, and at that point, it was over $2 million a year we were recognizing and saving by not contributing to those folks in the drop. Okay, today it's about 135 people in there, so it's just slightly less than $2 million annualized that we're saving. So to think about it, one of the things we take pride in is as employees is how do we find ways to identify savings and be proud about the fact, hey, this will save us money. That's what it does. It saves us money. On a personal note, I've got 4 accounting positions in our department. 3 of them are vacant. One of them's been over a year, okay? We can't get people to apply for these jobs, okay? I'm not saying anything about the pay study. The pay needs to be more than this and that. Some of the folks that we've offered, the last 3 people we've offered jobs to, very qualified people, some with very little experience, one just getting out of college. The starting salary is about $55,000. They were wanting $80,000 and told us, thank you anyway. Pay study's not going to even offer that. I mean, that's just egregious. So if for some reason, selfishly, we can see folks stay a little longer, that's a benefit to all of us. If we can get folks to not have to go into the marketplace and try to get somebody to come and apply for a job with the city, because folks right now are not doing that. So if we can do that, and it save us money to boot, I don't know why we would not do this.
So
it's a no-brainer, just like we did with police.
Right.
We did a pay study, we increased the benefits to the police, and then right afterwards came this vote to extend drop. There was no request to tie it to a pay study. It was already done. You guys trusted us that the pay study was valid. The officers were due that. We're due an increase in benefits, LifeScan, and the extension and drop. All good reasons to hire and retain folks. We're there, and so we're simply saying the same thing applies now. Nothing to do with the pay and benefit study.
So we're talking about something that can preserve our brain trust and the people that have experience to extend so that we have the availability of them through a difficult time of hiring that has savings potential to the city. And it doesn't relate to the survey on wages and benefits. I don't know why we would want to table that. Commissioner Reed.
Thank you. And one thing for Mike and Stephanie and Chad that weren't here on Friday, I think, like I say, this was requested by the city employees, and 72% of those people voted they wanted this. And again, I think it's imperative that we consider. I don't see any correlation between the pay study as well as this myself. And I think, and Sherry mentioned the other day, I think she's still here, that I think the average person stays in drop 3 years. So it's not going to really, it's going to give them a greater benefit than otherwise. But that's my only comment there. Again, I'm sure we'll have more dialogue next meeting. But
and it doesn't obligate us to keep them if they're non-performing employees. If for some reason in time you'd go through any other termination that you would if someone were non-performing. So it just gives them the ability to extend their desire to stay in a period of time where it's tough to have people be on board. And was there anonymity in that study, by the way, in the 72% study? In other words,
no. I mean, the person that was voting could do them in the privacy of their own computer, or we actually printed and handed out so people could take it home. They had it touched 3 work weeks for the folks they may want to talk to their significant other, their spouse, or whatever. But at that point, if they wanted to, they could take a photo of it and go online and do it from their phone at their house, right? So it wasn't in a room with a bunch of people. It was.
It's really kind of my
if
question.
That's your question.
Yeah,
yes,
my
sir.
question.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Sean and Mike. It's good comments, good perspective and context, and I think you make some compelling arguments. I would want to, and I know you will, Mayor, make sure we give Commissioner McCarley the opportunity to just explain more of her rationale since she's not here today. We may not ultimately table this. We could at the next meeting, but just are we missing something that she's not here today? So
I know one of her concerns was that we might be keeping the number 2 person or a number 3 person from being able to be promoted, and she made that comment during our agenda study, and I hear that. It does extend it 3 years, also goes pretty fast. The average is 3 years in the drop program anyway. We're talking about a maximum window of ability to stay. The other side of that coin is that's kind of like asking how long is a string, because it's where we are in the range of people's growth. It might also provide the opportunity to get some training done that isn't ready yet. So I think it would that concern to me, and I said that to her in the meeting, is anecdotal from the standpoint of it's just who we're talking about and what positions when, but I would certainly want that. And at the next meeting, if the commission so desired, they could table it. But I think my recommendation would be we keep this in process.
This is first reading, so no actions required this morning. No further
No
discussion,
action.
I'll move on to number 2.
Yes, sir, number 2.
Okay. The second ordinance for first reading is proposed ordinance number 23-024, an ordinance relating to the public right-of-way, making findings, vacating public right-of-way located north of West Peachtree Street, south of West Magnolia Street, east of North Virginia Avenue, and west of North New York Avenue within the city of Lakeland, Florida, authorizing the recording of a certified copy of this ordinance, providing for severability, providing an effective date. Again, these will come back for second reading and consideration of adoption on June 5th. And I believe that will be back in the city commission chambers, Kevin? Kevin, are we back in the city commission chambers for the next meeting?
Maybe, no.
2 meetings?
And 2 could always become 3, you know? Yeah, sorry.
June 5th in this room.
It's cozy in here.
It is.
We have a couple of task authorizations for consideration, for your consideration this morning. The first is a task authorization with Civil Serve Design Group for permitting, design, and construction administration services related to the FDOT's project to reconstruct Lakeland Hills Boulevard between Parkview Place and Griffin Road. They're going to be doing some major resurfacing, drainage improvements, and median construction within that area. And that's going to obviously create conflicts with our water utilities in that corridor. So this is a task authorization with the Civil Serve Design Group to engineer those relocations of our water utilities. They will also take the opportunity to replace some old asbestos cement water mains that are in the area and consolidate those into one 12-inch PVC water main. The cost for civil service services under this task authorization is $419,205. That is included within Water Utilities FY23 budget. That's recommended for your approval.
Is there a motion to approve?
For approval?
Second?
And discussion by commissioners? If you need any clarity, go to the drawings on page 12 or 13. It'll just make it simple for you to understand. That's tongue-in-cheek. Very complex systems that have aged history and limited amounts of ability to repair, and this is a chance to be able to get one of them. Any comments or questions by any members of the audience? Yes, please come to the mic, sir. Introduce yourself. Oh, this is on this motion. Oh, okay, sorry. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes.
Yeah, next item is very similar to the previous item. It's just a separate FDOT project. This is the FDOT's project to construct a roundabout at the intersection of Drainfield Road and Waring Road. Again, that's going to create a lot of water utility conflicts. There's also some wastewater conflicts at that location. So we are requesting approval to enter into a task authorization with Rummel, Klepper, and Call to perform permitting, design, and construction administration services to relocate the water and wastewater facilities at that location. The cost under this task authorization is $196,593, and that is also included in the Water Utilities FY23 budget, and that's recommended for your approval.
Motion to approve.
A second? Okay, good. Discussion by commissioners? Seeing none. Any discussion or question by members of the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes.
I just should add that, I forgot to add this on Friday as well, that this is just the engineering work. There's going to be separate contractor agreements with contractors to do the construction work that will come back before you on those. So
Thank you.
additional expenses to come.
Understood. HC1 and Ramona Siriani.
Morning, Ramona Siriani for the City Attorney's Office. We just have one utility item. This is an agreement with MP Predictive Technologies, Inc. This is for the purchase of 25,000 feet of medium voltage cable. This is for the Rice project. The cable will provide power between the generators and the switchgear, as well as between the switchgear and the transformer at the McIntosh Power Plant. The city's purchasing department went out for bid and received bids back. 3 contractors provided bids. MP Predictive Technologies, Inc., out of Orlando, was the lowest, most responsible bidder, and was also able to meet the requirements of our bid requirements in terms of the most favorable lead time. And just in addition, you'll notice that the difference between the low bidder and the next lowest bidder was very, very slim margin. However, upon evaluation of the proposals, the second low bidder, Grusco Utility Supply, actually had to adjust its bid. So they ended up coming in at $801,380, which is a little bit more, as you can tell, between the low bid of $724,110. Upon approval, the equipment is scheduled to be delivered in August of 2023, and at that point, we will issue a separate bid for installation by a general contractor of the cable. The total cost of the work is $724,110. This is included in the budget for the Rice project, which is funded through the city's energy system revenue bond, and we'd ask for your favorable approval.
Need a motion to approve by Commissioner Simmons and second by Commissioner Music, and discussion by commissioners. Seeing none, any by members of the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes. And now, Mr. Wilkinson, we are ready for audience participation. Just state your name, please.
My address? Or just
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Randy Wilkinson. I reside at 411 Merton, and appreciate the work you're doing. We all love Lakeland. I've been here since '59. My parents moved here to have a job right here at Lakeland Electric, worked in this building. So, and I'm sure you're as alarmed or concerned about some of the events with the shootings and the thefts and that sort of thing. And I just wanted to, on behalf of my community, I know you've spent a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on downtown Lakeland and really trying to improve, and I applaud that highly. In the place where I live, last week, even before the event of the shooting, one of my friends had a car stolen from that car lot there. Another one apprehended a young man in his car committing a theft, and he grabbed him. He said he didn't call the police because he didn't think anything would be done. And that was sort of the same story that the police officer told my friend who had his car stolen. I've talked to police. In fact, I talked to one at Publix yesterday and said, well, you know, that's determined by the state's attorney. You know, we've heard a lot about the crime rate. Grady says the crime rate is at a 50-year low, but he doesn't determine the crime rate. The state's attorney looks at what happens. Often, as the police officer told me last night, say the state's attorney takes the charge down from theft of a vehicle, which is a felony, to unlawful entry of a conveyance, which is a misdemeanor. So I just wanted to convey some of the concerns. We've also heard reports of people coming through Merton at night, checking all the car doors. And yes, some of these car doors have been left open. That's not good. But in order to protect all the work and labor that you put in the city of Lakeland, I think maybe it would behoove you to get with the police and the state's attorney, talk about this and see what we can do. You know, a friend of a friend, let's put it that way, I took him boating maybe 6 or 7 months ago, and he had a monitor on his leg. I forget, what do they call them? Where they can check.
Parole monitor, right.
Check your, location out at all times. That might be a thought. If you're not going to put them in jail and incarcerate them for a short time, hopefully scare them straight, there's at least something you can do. I was wondering if I'm sure you thought about a lot of these things. I'm not telling you anything new, but there's been, the word is getting out. Whatever we say here You know, I saw on Channel 13 a couple of months ago, they put up a chart, and it showed that the drive-by shootings had increased in Polk County by 800, 900%, from like 5 or 6 in 2019 to 50 or 60 now. That was on the chart they put up there. I heard Rob Lori on, he's on the Channel 3 this week, Tampa Bay, about 2 months ago. He said if Polk County was so safe, why do we see Grady Judd on TV every day, you know? So we need to, I think, protect our citizens, and I know that's your number one task, and you're working at it. I just think if there's anything you think we can do to work on these from very different levels. You know, I was on the founding board of the Police Athletic League. I work with youth, been a youth minister. There's all these angles, but we've got to be tough. You know, there's such a thing as tough love. You just can't excuse these sort of activities like has been done, I believe. Any thoughts about that? Or
Appreciate your recommendations.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? All right. Any commissioner comments that you'd like to close with? I'm looking, Commissioner Madden.
Thank you. I just wanted to, two things. One is that I have been talking to Kelly Ku's office and also the city attorney's office about something that Commissioner Walker had really asked me to do pretty much every year, and I just did not have the bandwidth, you know, as a new commissioner to try to figure out how to incorporate it. So this year, the Florida League of Cities annual conference is in Orlando, and it has been in Miami area, which would be even more problematic, about an initiative to get a youth council kind of springboard this year. So my goal is to, been working with Kelly on just a very basic application and a very basic ordinance, you know, to come before you here pretty soon, you know, not to promise the world and to do, I guess Commissioner Troller did have quite something going with college students and high school students. You know, for me, I would like to, you know, just start with a very small council of high school students and be able to kind of, if you think about posturing towards a timeline, you know, have a simple application this summer of an appointed group of maybe 10, and then be able to get those 10 to go to the youth council. It's a Saturday-long program. It would be in Orlando, and it's under the umbrella of the Florida League of Cities. So kind of an orientation prior to that, which is mid-August. They would come to maybe a September meeting to be kind of sworn in as the youth council, Lakeland Youth Council, have some meetings throughout the year, and then, you know, reading and doing my research on other youth councils. I watched a webinar through Florida League of Cities a couple weeks ago, just to kind of say, okay, what could I really do here behind the scenes, just to get it going, you know, and then incorporate more kids, maybe, you know, get youth, the school board to have a nominee, things like that. But just to get it going, just kind of do where we appoint maybe 10 kids. So, and
any budgeting requirements?
No budgeting requirements. It's going to be pretty much Commissioner Madden just, you know, doing it. And I feel like, you know, being a commissioner for 6 years at least, I have information that I can be teaching them about local government, and there's a lot of resources through Florida League of Cities. So, you know, being able to use the conference room at on the 3rd floor, and, you know, maybe get some speakers, you know, police chief, you know, just some Parks and Rec. And a lot of times what they'll do is they learn during this one-day thing at Florida League of Cities, they learn so much. I mean, they get a lot of information. And one of the things that they'll typically do is come up with something that they'd like, if they had a magic wand, you know, for their Parks and Rec department, or something that they would like to incorporate. So kind of like with YIG, you know, you do youth in government, you try to get a bill to sponsor legislatively. This would be more like, you know, we want this particular amenity in our Parks and Rec program. And so they would have the year of some meetings to learn about local government, kind of cover the different departments, and then that last meeting make a presentation to say, you know, what they would like to see City of Lakeland, you know, consider. And so I just, you know, be teaching these youth about parliamentary procedure, local government, the different departments of the city, and really just kind of, you know, doing it on like a zero budget the first year, and then let my colleagues kind of evaluate, see what they think about the program, if that'd be something that we would like to expand and continue, in the future. So I feel like, this is as good a time as any. No, I'm not running for office. I feel like I know more about the city, that I could, do this year, and then we can just see, so I don't really want to ask for any money or anything. I just want to have the
So I'm
opportunity.
not sure what the permission is.
No, when you see it coming, when City Attorney Davis, and his team, I think it'll probably be next month or so. I didn't give them a type, but just by that August deadline of getting, and if you have any recommendations of high school students that you think would benefit or like to
You're
participate.
not capped at 10.
No,
necessarily.
not capped at 10. Just sure that if you have a small group, but they invite very exciting. I just don't want to overpromise. I'd rather overperform and promise next to zero, just the basics, and then see how we do.
We need a resolution to establish the council.
We adopt, we create committees by resolution, yes.
Okay, so it follows that.
There you go.
Gotcha.
That's
Okay.
what I really needed, and I had no clue.
Yeah.
So I need to
I
go to
love
your
it. It was
class.
great.
Yeah, yes, and I gave some samples to the city attorney's office. I don't even know if you've seen it yet, because I know you're really busy, but.
So timeliness-wise, you might be able to have something in June?
Yes, that'd be perfect. And then we'll just appoint a small group. And this year, it would preferably be people we know personally, because I'm going to ask them to travel with me to Orlando. And, I don't know about liability and risk, things like that. So if they're personally known by a commissioner, I think that would be the best place to start, to appoint the first youth council.
Manager Sharif, you have any comment on this at all?
No, not at all. As Commissioner Madden alluded to, I know Commissioner Troller had a previous initiative with that, and as you all know, we're doing a lot of things here at the city with internships and a very robust Big Brothers Big Sisters school to work program, and as much influence as we can provide and through the commission to the youth in our community, we're happy to do so.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Simmons.
Do you have a curriculum something laid out? Because I know of youth leaders who could certainly recommend individuals who would kind of fit that mold.
Yes.
So if you could get that to me.
Yeah, and like I said, Florida League of Cities every city is different, right? So not everyone has an airport and has an electric utility, so it's as different as the city, but I plan to just kind of use our budget, each department, and kind of do a little presentation throughout the year at each of their meetings and teach them, and maybe have some guest speakers to do it, and just, kind of self-fund anything, snacks or things like that, so.
I could recommend some
Yes,
individuals.
absolutely.
I mean, how many should I recommend?
Well, most of the councils will do like 2 per, 1 to 2 recommendations per commissioner, or council member. And, it might be that some have 3 and some have 0, but anyone that you have can, now with Sunshine and everything like that, like Kelly's making the application right now, Commissioner Simmons. And so as soon as that's ready, and as soon as we have the resolution or the ordinance, then I think I will just ask my peers to send me any names that they have, and we'll get them to fill out the application.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
The idea be that each commissioner has the option of appointing up to begin with two members of the council? Or is it a recommendation to the mayor, or a recommendation to you, or?
Well, in the sample that I gave to your office, I'm trying to remember what the one I gave the simplest one, so that it wouldn't tie us up, so that, Commissioner Reed doesn't have to have an appointee if he doesn't want one, but I think it would be like maybe an up to 2 per commission.
I'd make that recommendation up to 5 per. That gets you 30, and you're going to have half of that fall out that doesn't have to, it doesn't work somehow.
Yeah, somebody's not going to be able to accept it for whatever reason.
Yes, and it could be that after the first year, we have a better system of this. I mean, this year it's just going to be a shorter notice, just like our municipal boards and committees. It could be that you could put an application throughout the year, And when the time comes for the youth council to, you know, be filled, you have those on hand. So I'm open to suggestions on.
Two electric buses of 70
But right, then it costs, then I'll need the budget allocation, so that's what I was thinking, small at the beginning, so that I can, you know, have it in the conference room, and it is, you know, it will be a, you know, something that someone has to participate in, you know, with a monthly meeting, and with, you know, I would really hope that if you can come, I would think if you fill out the application, my hope is that you'd be able to go to that Saturday, and it's the Saturday after the last day of, school begins. So that might be a stretch for people too this first year, but just to get, because if you can get, you know, if it's 6 this year, but they really come to everything and they really get excited and then they tell their friends, maybe they can nominate other kids from their school, you know, or maybe it's the guidance counselor. I know, because I've been a part of Youth Impact and they do the Leadership Lakeland kind of so I've done a lot of those youth programs. I just, like I said, you know, we don't have a lot of opportunity to meet with each other, and except for these meetings, and to get it to actually happen, I just, as simple as it can be this first year, to just give it some legs and then go from there. Then we'll have a year to figure out an application process as well.
Okay. So you're going to work on that with Kelly and with Palmer?
Yeah.
Great. Commissioner Reed?
Are you requesting 35 members then? Because if you're 7 of us or 5 each, there again, I hate to, usually if I'm not going to recommend somebody unless I've talked to them in advance. And I don't want to get somebody all hyped up and somebody say, well, you can't do it. Yeah. So that if I talk to 2 and they say they want to do it, then that would give us 15 or so. But
because there's 7 of us, so I don't know if it's maybe a per person, but you know, can you keep it nebulous? Like the
we do 7
commissioners
times
can
2
nominate
and up to 14
peers that they know in the neighborhoods, and then I don't know.
We ought to just get with you and Kelly afterwards, but I mean, the council will be actually voting on recommendations of that type of thing, where we have quorum issues and voting procedures to follow. I mean, obviously, when you get a large council, that's going to
Some councils, once they develop, they get emails of the city and they operate in the sunshine, you know, so you can really do a lot, you know. I cannot promise all of that, and then I would you know, I feel like it's more of an exploratory year to see how we can do, and you know, then it can develop and evolve, you know, going forward. But yes, some youth councils that have been, but I was so, when I watched the webinar with Florida League of Cities, it was very assuring. You know, one of the guys said that he and his son just started it the first year, and his son didn't even get to participate that first year, but they just worked on it together and got some youth involved, and they just kind of spent half a year just kind of getting, you know, a schedule and a calendar and an application process, and then they had it really official the next year. You know, some have where they get a lot of money, you know, their city allocates a lot of money, and they all take the bus field trip to the FLC conference to participate, and then they all go to Tallahassee for the Tallahassee FLC Teen Day. So, you know, we can ramp up, you know, going forward if we can get that kind of buy-in and we feel it's something, you know, that the citizens would really like. I just know that, you know, despise not small beginnings, that if we had maybe 6 to 10 that could do it by this August, you know, that would be a good start, just to kind of get it rolling. And I could take, you know, good notes and have, you know, you still can appoint like your chair and your co-chair and your treasurer and secretary, take minutes, so all of that information could be collected and presented to the commission to say, yes, this is great, let's do it and take it to the next level. Or but I, you know, just to get it rolling, I didn't really want to have to ask for staff and money. I thought, let's just see what we can do.
Well, and maybe it would be good for you to get us a profile of the kind of student you'd like to have beyond this in terms of their background interests too, so that we could start thinking about that in advance.
Yeah. And there is, like, and, you know, Kelly can share the application. Like, I did give her samples.
Okay.
And they do have to, they're not an essay, but small reasons why they'd like to participate, why they're interested in local government. So it's kids who you think would have a proclivity to want to maybe run for a local government seat, or, you know, work for the city, things like that, just kind of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Foundation for future leaders, certainly.
With that, I'll just get with Kelly and Commissioner Madden and develop something and present it to you, probably the second meeting in June.
Perfect.
My other thing
Rob.
was just to look at this view. I mean, I'm not minding at all having to have it in here. Look at that. It is a beautiful view that we have today. I wish the guests that came would have been able to face that way the whole time.
Well, and especially when the citizens were in the lower part of it, which augmented that view.
Yes, of course. It made it more beautiful.
Okay, anything else? Yes, Commissioner Reed.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is more for Stephanie and Mike and Chad as well. I ran over a little bit on Friday, but at our previous commission meeting, we passed some about the historical home. Anyway, the Historical Society asked me to come to their meeting. I guess I had chastised them a little bit in reference to not being more prudent in their efforts. But anyway, so I had a good meeting with them, and they gave me the difference between the preservation and the historical board, which I already knew. But I challenged them to maybe get with Palmer to put together a master list of homes that they feel that should be on a preservation list or on the historical list. And so that may come to pass in the future. But there's a lot of homes that are, of course, they're gonna may come back with something of a home of over 50 years or 75 years or 100 years. I'm not sure what it's going to be. But a home 50 years old is, we have a lot of homes that are over
Three quarters of our Lake Morton neighborhood.
So they're going 75 to 100 may be a better number.
Yeah.
But anyway, I challenged them, and they said they're going to try to collaborate their efforts and maybe get us a list in the near future to Palmer or just to some group, but I encourage them to get together and coordinate their efforts.
Thank you.
I mean, that will present some challenges. I mean, that you've heard me say over and over about talk about the Burt Harris Act and, the effect on property rights and the remedy that creates. There's been some new legislation in this past legislative session that could complicate that as well. So
It's more so to identify them. It's not necessarily
To regulate.
to regulate. They're going to, the regulation is carried out by the Preservation Board. They have a lot of backbone. You can't paint your house this color, or you can't change the windows and stuff like that. But you would encourage them just to make, at least to identify some homes that, if it were to come up in the near future, we would have an idea of which home it was, or maybe encourage these people to get on the historical board.
Right.
So they protect their home, per se, or make it, you never can tell, it may help or hurt you. You never can tell, but at least we could have identification of some sort.
Commissioner Madden, you have something you want to add to that? Okay. All right, yes, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just Police Chief Taylor has notified me that related to Mr. Wilkinson's comments that the police department has been pursuing those issues, and over the weekend there was 2 related arrests, both juvenile arrests, but related to the car burglary and theft. We have made 2 arrests associated or related to that over the weekend.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Reed.
I have surveillance on my home, and habitually, I will see kids come by, and they're pulling on all the neighborhood doors, and so you lock your car. Best thing you can do is lock your car. They're not to the point they're going to break the window, but they'll sure try your handle just to make sure your car's locked.
I would think those videos would be valuable to other parties.
We haven't had any issues in a while, but.
Yeah, but if I have a video like that, I make sure someone else sees it, just for the record. Okay. Anything else?
Just to remember that we have it was already spoken about, with the 5K this Saturday. I will be walking it, but I will be there, as will Nikki. So just if you haven't signed up, go sign up. And having run and organized a lot of 5Ks, that's a big 5K. I mean, that's 3 times the normal size of a 5K, so that's awesome.
So we could get lost in it, maybe.
I hope so. I hope so.
You won't, but the rest of us might be. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.